locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, yeah, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, yeah, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, yeah, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, yeah, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, yeah, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, yeah, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, yeah, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, yeah, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, yeah, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, yeah, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, they got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, they got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, they got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, they got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, they got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though.
Well, good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be back. George Morgan here at your service. It's PSGL, it's Wednesday night, it's Spain tonight as well. Lots on the table, lots of battling. The title contest is still alive and kicking. And Jack, it's only taken us 10 rounds. We're on the 11th. It's all to play for.
Boromant goes on the inside and takes the lead on the final lap of the race. Now it's side by side between Boromant and Warner, but Boromant's got the inside.
Here in this phenomenal race, Cameron Dowd looking to take P2 in his very first PSGL F1 PC race. Incredible to say the least. You see that Putin's still lead. 1.5 seconds. DRS is the name. Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to PSGL. We are back here now once again the racing continues. The championship fight continues as well. Barry Burman currently leads the way, 13 points ahead of rival Jarno Otmir. How many times have we had in PSGL those two fighting to the bitter end for PSGL championships? And once again, it seems to be coming together. Still though, however, Brendan Lee seemingly back to his brilliant best, third in the championship, 20 points behind the top, with Thomas Ronhaar as well, 29 off the back. Certainly seems to me that the Sauber partnership is working. My name is, of course, George Morgan, your commentator. Alongside me as well, fellow commentator and extraordinaire, all the way from Ireland, Jack Cannan. Jack, how are you, sir?
Very, very good. Hoping to keep the prediction streak alive this evening. If you did miss it, got it all right last week. But of course, it's the first time we've been here since season 30, I believe it was the last time we were here. So a bit of a game cycle ago, a couple of game cycles ago. And the last time we were here, it was actually a Lights to Flag victory for a certain Brendan Lee when he was at Ferrari. So let's see if we can repeat that this evening. 18 points off the championship lead. He's in this fight as well. He's going to be the guy watching in the wings. Of course, we've seen Barry and Jarno fight it out over so many seasons, but could we see Brendan Lee do it this season?
I think it's fair to say, Jack, that this is the best season Brendan Lee has had, I think, in the world of F1 esports and league racing in itself. I think all the way since all the way back in 2018-19. I think now he's since found his form. 3 podiums to boot already this season, not to mention a race win and also a pole. So he has got the sheer ability to certainly challenge up at the front end. We'll have to wait and see how he gets on, of course. It does seemingly see, though, that obviously his partnership with Thomas Ronhaar is working. Sauber obviously have this way with working with drivers. We saw it a little bit with Jarno Otmir only a matter of years ago when he first won his title. But once again, it seems that they've masterminded an approach between what I could only describe as 2 unlikely teammates.
Yeah, it's a revamp entirely, which seems to be working for them very, very nicely. Indeed, of course, having Thomas Ronhaar alongside him this season, they seem to be working well so far. Let's see if it carries forward. But as well, we did miss last week, an amazing race up towards the front end, and it was, surprisingly enough, on his 30th attempt, it was Nicolas Longue who finally got himself a PSGL win. We were shocked, and he was amazed as well that it had been so long, or that he'd been in the league since the very beginning and had yet to pick up that win. It had been so close on so many occasions, but finally managed to hold off a charging Jarno Otmir behind him. And he did an impressive stint on the medium tyres to keep him behind as well. It was a brilliant race to watch up towards the front. Hopefully we get plenty of that this evening, but it's been a while since we've been at Imola. We only have one form book to go off, which is back a couple of seasons ago with Brendan Lee starting from pole and leading from the front the whole way through the race. Let's see if we can carry that forward here, but it will be qualifying. I think is going to be especially important around here because it's so narrow. It might be a bit tricky to overtake here.
Yeah, it's going to be tricky. Very technical circuit, plenty of chicanes, many of them. It's an Italian circuit, I think it's fair to say. I mean, when you come down towards Tamburello, it's iconic. Very, very fast pace for a chicane as well. Heading down towards turn 2 in towards turn 3. You need to make sure you hook turn 3 correctly when accessing turn 4, because of course you can always get somebody who has a better run than you heading down through towards turn 5, turn 6 as well. So lots of variation, lots of, should we say, steeps and falls, lots of certainly configuration for the drivers to work out. And I'd imagine they would have put that into practice where it comes down to their sessions leading up to this particular test tonight. It is going to be so tough. And naturally, it takes the best of the best to certainly win a race here around Emilia-Romagna, and we've seen it time and time again. One incredible stat, though, Jack, is that obviously we've only had one driver that's gone and scored 2 wins this season. Everyone else has won 1 solitary race. Barry Burman, 2 race wins this season. The rest of them, Thomas Ronhaar, Brendan Lee, Jake Benham, Lucas Blakely, and now, as of last week, Nicolas Longue, only on 1 solitary race win.
It's crazy, isn't it? It's one of the most competitive seasons we've had. And well, we got it confirmed by Jarno as well last week. He's finished second 4 times this season. And last one being his 4th P2 finish this season so far. But again, consistency wins championships, and that's what we know about. But again, he has a record of at least winning 1 race every season. Let's see if he can finally do it this evening. But either way, he'll be just looking to keep on scoring big points like that and see if he can keep outscoring Barry Burman, who's leads the championship by 13 points. But Jarno is now within a race win of him, 16 points for a win here at PSGL, if you're unfamiliar. So we got a couple of guys out on the intermediate tyres, if you are wondering. That is just to check setup and everything is working okay. It's not obviously going to count, but it's an interesting strategy nonetheless. Alfie Butcher, of course, we have to remind, he does have a qualifying ban, so he'll be starting from the back, and he has a 5-second penalty to carry forward into the race for the massive, for want of a better term, incident between himself and Danny Beresnay in 130R last week. So he will be taking no further part in this qualifying session. He'll be starting at the back. We have some, of course, a name joining us for his first time this season. Ulash Yildirim comes through to start his first race. It's been a while since we've seen Ulash on the grid. Obviously, he's been committed to ESL, but great to see him back.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, representing FaZe Clan in the world of ESL R1 as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how he copes with the two, you know, ends of the spectrum when it comes to sim racing. We know that Freddie Rasmussen has had to deal with the same thing. Not only that as well, we've got to consider the fact that Yoni Tormler has also been through the same fight. These two drivers have not even touched the game at all. Not since really release. He's had 1 month only to practice. We alluded to that at Japan as Freddie comes into the pits. Obviously not content with sending this lap. Jana Watbier also coming in. In fact, I'm reading on my telemetry, Jack. No rain expected. The drivers, I think, in the initial, I think on a bit of a damp surface, maybe trying to get their numbers up, maybe questioning what the weather's doing, but according to my telemetry, no rain expected. So we should be seeing the slick tyres hitting the forefront here tonight.
It seems like it seems to be just that threatening cloud. Fabrizio Donoso's pushing on either way on the intermediate tyres nonetheless here in Q1. Of course, trying to get some luck to go his way for Fabrizio Donoso. Had a great start to the season. A couple of podiums, close to a win in Brazil. Didn't quite come out at the end of it, but we'll see if he can finally convert something into a race victory. I'm sure he'll be very committed to that as well. We've got Philip Preshner is also out on the circuit, but that just shows you if you try to carry speed through the bottom of the hill right there, for intermediate tyres, not wanting to do anything other than go straight on or overheat on a lap like that. So Richardson also carrying on. Danny Beresnay is out on the circuit at the moment, and he was very aggrieved after last week. Heated discussions in the stewards room post-race between himself and Alfie Butcher. And, well, it's all resolved in the end, but I've seen plenty of comments, or a couple of the onboards with Danny Beresnay during his stream. And, of course, Danny is a really lovely guy, and people were saying he's the only man who can compliment a driver while also yelling at them.
Yeah, he seems to be a bit of an expert when it comes to that end of the scale. But, I mean, I think what was mostly fascinating around this, Jack, was the fact that it's a battle between two teammates. You know, Alfie Butcher, of course, representing Haas. He is now off the back of that incident, suffering a qualifying ban, not to mention a 5-second penalty coming into tonight as well. That'll be added to his race time here at the end of the race. Danny Beresnay, of course, also in the Haas, has been stellar this season as well and has achieved some really super podiums. I mean, I say that, add that to his name. He's only had one podium to date so far, but still nonetheless, a credit to him. Seems to be rediscovering that former form that he had. Of course, he was, you know, alongside the likes of Brendan Lee when, of course, he went on to win his championship for Mercedes. But back again and seemingly now at a competitive level and arguably one of the most competitive drivers we have seen this season.
Yeah, and he was on for a good result last week, or again driving from towards the back to get himself through up towards the top 5, but got caught up in that instance with himself and Alfie Butcher. But he's on his timed run now. He's on the soft compound tyres, wants the track to himself. And this is normally what we do see from Danny. He likes to come out and just make sure that he gets a run under his belt. And you can see this is just so high speed through Tamburello all the way down to the chicane. And of course he will set purple sector because he's the only driver out on the circuit at the moment. But it's not a bad strategy, is it, just to come out and make sure you've got a lap under your belt. Maybe you can take the pressure off yourself a little bit. But he is pushing on here as Danny Beresnay up through sector 2. This is where it's going to get narrow here through dropping downhill. Very hard section right there as he rises up towards the hill and up towards this very tight chicane, one of the slowest corners on the circuit. You got to be careful with these curbs either side, with the car handling it nicely, back on the power nice and early, and dropping down towards the final 2 corners at the bottom of the hill here. Sector 3 split begins, and then this is a crucial 2 corners. Downhill and the camber again wants to drag you out wide. Very easy to invalidate through there and then runs up towards the start-finish line. So their first timed effort from Danny Beresnay, crosses the start-finish line. A 13.4 to get us underway.
Yeah, fantastic time to get himself started. A 1:13.430, a 23.6 in the first sector, 25.2 in sector 2, and a 24.5 in sector 3. So not a bad place to start. Naturally, I'm sure we'll see more and more cars make their way out. Still very quiet in the pit lane right now, not a lot of movement. We're waiting for those drivers to now make their way out on soft tyres. Quite a few have set an initial outlap run on the intermediates, but no one yet setting their laps aside from Danny Beresnay as well. Of course, Alfie Butcher, let me remind you folks at home, of course, out of qualifying due to that incident with Danny Beresnay, of course, back at Japan last time out. So we're now down to the final 10 minutes and 55 seconds left in Q1. Still plenty of time now for the drivers to usher in potentially 2 laps into the realms here. Of course, Danny Beresnay securing that 1:13.4, which is a very competitive run, certainly from the get-go. He could go back to the garage now, reassess, and then I'm sure he'll come back out later on as the track becomes more and more optimal. It currently sits at 28 degrees right now, so it's not too far away from being up to optimal temperature. We generally see it around about the 30-degree mark when it's at its highest. We'll probably see a lot of that heading in towards latter Q2 and Q3. But as all the drivers make their way out, I'm sure it won't take long for that tarmac to heat up. Still, all the cars, though, in the pit lane. Very little movement. Still Beresnay, the sole time on the board, a 1:13.430. Let's see what will follow.
Yeah, looks like some movement at Williams. I see Joni Tormola is about to come out onto the circuit. There they'll go the mechanics on their way towards the end of the garage. Here comes Joni Tormola to get us at least some action out on the track at the very least as he heads down to the pit lane here at Imola. And he will begin his run. But still, it's because it's such a short lap, guys don't need to come out until a little bit later. The Ferrari, the two Ferraris, Barry Borman and Nicholas Longay coming out now as well. The Alpha Tauri coming down there as well. I believe it's Jake Benham or Tom Manley. And then Fabrizio Donoso is coming back out again as far as I can see here. So lots of activity on pit lane. But the first Ferrari, of course, it's the home race for them. And last week's winner, Nicholas Longay, leads the Ferraris out onto the circuit. And 30 attempts, and Nicholas Longay finally got himself a race victory here in PSGL last week with a stellar drive and a stellar defence, it has to be said, versus Jarno Wotmir last week. So he'll be hoping to try and repeat that. Of course, the only other driver to go back-to-back or take 2 wins this season, as George said earlier, is Barry Borman. So let's see if he can do the same as his teammate. And another man who wanted to give it a quick mention because it's Ferrari, George. Istvan Pukki now part of Ferrari.
Yes, absolutely right, and he's not alone either, because I can tell you that former Intrepid esports driver Kamil Stachura also got signed by Ferrari as well alongside him, so I'm going to take the credit for that one, as we're now watching certainly Joni Tormola make his way down towards the next chicane before he reaches the latter sector, and Williams currently holding on to that position in 17th and 20th, despite yet not setting a lap. So we're going to be getting ready now for all the cars to make their way around. A very busy circuit now with every car leaving the garage. Of course, bar Alfie Butcher, who is, of course, retired from the session due to the qualifying ban, makes his way down towards Ravazza. And we're going to join Joni Tormola on his fast run. Soft tyres embraced by this man. Of course, moving across from ESL R1 after being highly competitive in that season, performing valiantly at Italy as well. We went racing at Monza in the finals at Gamers 8 in Saudi Arabia, where of course he would challenge for the top prizes, a $1 million prize pool at stake there, and Joni Tormola was up there and fighting for it for his team G2 Esports as the man who represents AlphaTauri in the world of F1 Esports itself. Despite driving a Williams here today, is going to look to show off the goods here this time. Ever the improver, ever the experienced driver. Certainly this man, that of Joni Tormola, looking forward to seeing how he gets on. Climbs now out of the Tosa section. Piratella coming up next. Aqua Minerale is going to be right in front of him here. The current first sector looking good. A 23.658 is a lot faster than what Danny Beresnay has enlisted on the top as well. I can tell you folks, incidentally, that there is plenty on there. Otis Lawrence going purple though, however, in the first sector at 23.6. That is brilliant, certainly to get things underway from the Welshman, but only mere hundredths faster than that of Joni Tormler himself. He's got a little bit of traffic heading down towards Ravazza 1 and Ravazza 2. Makes his way now down through towards the long straight. He's got one little corner to take. You might as well not call it a corner. Tormler, though, however, losing time in the latter sectors. A 1:13.573, and that's just about enough to take second fastest, because, of course, I can imagine times are going to come in thick and fast. The track's still 28 degrees.
There's Longay up to the top to answer your question. 13.394. Barry Borman backing out because he invalidated his time, so he'll have to go again. Not ideal for Barry Borman. Here's more still to come here as they end Q1. There is Otis Lawrence popping up to the top of the order for the moment. Istvan Pukki in his new seat pops into second place, just 100th of a second, 9,000ths of a second behind. Wilson Hughes pops into fourth for the moment, and a couple more, lots more cars still to cross the line here in this part of Q1. We still have Freddie Rasmussen popping in behind Wilson Hughes. Oz Yildirim pops in front of him there as he comes through, and still Marcel Kiefer now popping into fourth place. Brendan Lee pops into third. Thomas Ronnar goes fastest on a 13.284. Here comes Lucas Blakely on his return. Pops into second right behind Lucas Blakely right there with those first runs in Q1. Philip Preschner has invalidated. Jake Benham has also invalidated. So those are the first runs over. And, well, it's Thomas Ronnar from Lucas Blakely, but not ideal for Barry Borman there. George invalidated that first run.
Yeah, he did. And there was a few who, in fact, invalidated towards the end there. Josh Edo was one of them. Of course, on his previous run, Barry Borman invalidating as well earlier on, of course. But we're looking down the bottom end of the bracket. Tom Manley, despite not invalidating, just backed off his run as such. Another man who invalidated was Jake Benham, Philip Preschner. Those three drivers, in accordance to the timing tower, not going to be setting necessarily valid runs here at this point. Thomas Ronnar, though, the fastest man at 1:13.284. Lucas Blakely setting a blistering time. And just a word on Lucas Blakely. Not only is he securing the big results, certainly securing the big race wins, of course a race winner this season in PSGL, despite not attending necessarily all the races. In fact, he's probably had one of the less attending season run so far, but has since put his skills to that of the KMR racing team in Formula Ford, and he's also a race winner in that championship too, Jack, which is an absolutely phenomenal achievement, certainly for an F1 esports star.
He is showing what he can do in a Formula Ford. Formula Ford, of course, incredibly competitive championship over in the UK. Took his first ever race victory in the Formula Ford Championship last weekend. So congratulations, Lucas Blakely. Great to see that. And, of course, jumps back into this once again and see if he can, again, straight up towards the top end, as you would almost expect. Now, Otis Lawrence has decided to not go any further in this session. He's retired in a 13.3, so you would expect Ronnar and Blakely to do the same. There goes Ronnar right on cue. We'll see if Blakely does the same. We'll see if he might wait a little bit longer, but it's so close. Otis Lawrence down to Nicholas Longay are all in the same 10th of a second, actually less than a 10th of a second between all of them. Wilson Hughes in the 13.4 then, so the current cutoff at the moment is technically a 13.7, but we know Donoso's probably got more in the tank than that. Josh Edo's not set a lap yet, and Barry, of course, is invalidated, as has Tom Manley, Jake Benham, and Philip Preschner. So it's anybody's guess, really, who's going to go out in Q1, but one man who can't afford to do that, really, is Barry Borman, because currently Jarno Wotmere currently safely through in P8, but I reckon if you're in that middle of that gaggle, you're going to probably have to come out again, because you would expect everyone behind to also improve, and Tom Manley straight back out onto the circuit, as well as one of the Mercedes. It was Marcel Kiefer who's come out onto the circuit again. So these guys, they know that they're going to need to go again.
Crisis for AlphaTauri at the moment as well, Jack. Both drivers currently sat in the elimination zone. We're just seeing Tom Manley make his way around Tamburello. On his outlap, both drivers still yet to set laps. Brendan Lee is now retired. Thomas Ronnar, his teammate, has too. No surprises. Joni Tormler just been hit with a 5-place grid penalty for the illegal blocking, so the restart is imminent. We know that much. But yeah, a lot of pressure now on the two AlphaTauri drivers here, Jack.
There is, yeah, especially for the two of them. Tom Manley, of course, we know he can deliver. We've seen it before, but again, validating those first runs just puts extra pressure on the next run. It means you have to push a little bit more. Everyone else already has a time under their belt, so they're going to obviously be pushing a bit harder, but you cannot afford to invalidate. The others possibly can, but But you can see now, Danny Beresnes has also decided to retire. So everyone from Marcel Kiefer up believes they're safe. So 7th down is the battle for getting through into the next part of Q2. And of course, Alfie Butcher has a qualifying ban, so he won't be taking any further part, and he's a 5-second penalty to carry forward. But really, it's all about who's going to get through in this next part. And Barry Bormand really is the man with all the pressure because he's currently in the drop zone. So if he does invalidate, he's going to be out.
Yeah, absolutely. Pressure's now on. Barry Burman, of course, is no stranger to going out in Q1. Remember that incident that he had not too long ago. Funnily enough, with another man in the drop zone, Jake Benham. Of course, the All-Star coming together with that of Barry Burman not too long ago at Qatar. And that would lead to Jake Benham, of course, suffering a penalty as a result of that. But Tom Manley now looking to grant himself a place in Q2. Can he do just that, heading through towards Villeneuve out of Tamburello, of course, and now making his way up through towards the Tosa left-hander. Need to make sure you keep your car primed for this one, and then foot straight back to the floor as soon as you exit out of that progressive bend. Rising up the hill, and then up towards the very, very fast left-hander at the Piratella. You want to whip the car around, make sure you hook it up, staying within the white lines as Tom Manley has so successfully done already. This looks good. This looks steady. Heading through Acca Minerale. Knows that he just needs to try and gain himself at least a place inside the top 15. Makes his way now through towards the Variante Alta, and now dipping down through towards Ravazza 1 and 2. Double left-handers lie in wait as he now descends down the hill now before then reaching down towards the long straight. There you can see him trying to cut the car in, utilising all the curb on the right-hand side, and now with the foot to the floor yet again, he'll jettison past the paddock, past the pit lane. Tom Manley, 4th fastest, and a great lap as well. Pressure on those in the bottom 5, Jack Canan.
And a little bit of a sweat starting to form on Danny Beresnay's brow as here comes Marcel Kiefer, top of the order for Marcel Kiefer straight away on that second run. Oz Yildirim also improves on the 13.2 now. It's going to get a little bit interesting as we wait to see the last few cars. There's Longuet up the top, 13.0 for Nicholas Longuet. Pulled out an incredible lap there to get himself through to the top of the orders. He should be absolutely safe in this part. Still more to come in this part of qualifying. We're waiting for more. Bormand is safely through. He goes up to P6 here. Wilson Hughes coming out of the final corner now as well. Denoso on the brink at the moment. Here comes Wilson Hughes. He goes through in P10. He's currently safe. Josh Ito, 4th place for Josh Ito there. He should be absolutely safe. So that's going to knock Freddie Rasmussen out of this part of qualifying. Shock exit for him there. Jarno Watmir now coming across to finish his lap as well as we wait to see Jake Benham comes through. He is safe. Jarno Watmir, does he go through? He certainly does, because it's right behind his rival Nicholas Longuet, and he is safely through. So Denoso, once again, it all goes a little bit wrong, but Danny Beresnay, how perfect can you get that? He makes it through.
Yeah, he certainly does. Danny Beresnay managing to just land a time to get himself through towards Q2. 15th place at 1:13.363, but it's Longuet, the momentum in his pocket, carrying it out since Suzuka last time out. And what about Mercedes? Back with a bang. Otmir in 2nd, Kiefer in 3rd. Have they finally put the demons to bed? Despite Otmir being 2nd in the championship, it's been a very fraught season, certainly for Marcel Kiefer, I would say, more than Otmir. Of course, Jarno currently in the midst of a championship fight. 13 points is all that's keeping him away from top spot. And Barry Burman, one big result today and one hapless result for Barry Burman today could twist the fate of this championship, certainly very dramatically. We'll have to wait and see whether that's going to be the case. But certainly, Kiefer, who has certainly had form that you could argue hasn't been necessarily stellar here at this point, Jack. It's looking like the cogs are turning. P3 in Q1, that's not bad.
Yeah, and he has had pole position here. Well, not here, but he has had a pole position this season back in Hungary. Pulled a lap out right at the very end, so encouraging signs from Marcel Kiefer and Mercedes in general. You don't want me 2nd fastest, but Nicholas Longuet carries forward the momentum into this next part of qualifying. But he, of course, tops Q1. Safely through for Nicholas Longuet at 13.0, and it's Otmir behind him with Kiefer, Ronar, Ito top 5. We go down to the drop zone, then we lose Fabrizio Denoso, Philip Preschneider, Freddie Rasmussen. He'll be disappointed with that. Joni Tormala and Alfie Butcher, of course, who's serving a qualifying ban, of course. But I have to say, George, on his first attempt, Oz Yildirim straight through to Q2.
Yeah, impressive. And I think, obviously, having that experience in a LAN environment, certainly at Gamers 8 where we were at Saudi Arabia, maybe that has given a little bit more confidence to Ulas Ozyildirim. Of course, he's playing at the top of his game now. He's fighting with some of the best drivers in the world, not just in F1 esports. He's met a few of these guys, though, certainly in the world of ESL R1. So that could be a factor, certainly, to his rampant improvement that we have witnessed, certainly over the last few weeks. But we'll have to wait and see whether he can certainly plug that in to his F1 form. We'll have to sit tight. Obviously, there's still a matter of 2 qualifying sessions remaining. But I want to talk about, obviously, the Mercedes form, the change. I mean, Kiefer, we saw him at Suzuka. He had a real fight on his hands heading through the mid-pack, certainly in the mid-20 classification. He was around 10th place, battling, trying to get out to the bottom 10. He hasn't had it easy this season, Jack. What does he need to do to turn things around?
It's going to be tricky because again the field is so tight. It's going to be again an uphill battle, but there's encouraging signs there, and I think we might be able to again just keep the head down. All it comes down to is literally practicing, as simple as that sounds. But I mean, there's a quote that I constantly hear is that you know, when you're not practicing, somebody else is, and they will beat you and they will win. So there is always that mentality with these guys. They're obviously, again, so much prep going in. F1 Esports, of course, not too far around the corner. We expect it to be a little bit earlier this season as well. So we can expect plenty more stories to come out in the near future. But you can sort of see Formbook starting to show its hand a little bit now as we head into this parts of the season. So we'll see how things go. But busy out on the circuit straight away. Here you've got the lead car being Danny Beresnay, who timed his Q1 to perfection, you would say. I thought he was going to be too far out. P7, he retires on a high 13.3, sorry, and makes it through just.
Yeah, I think obviously, given the fact that you're now in Q2, obviously that's half the battle. Moving yourself through towards the next session, that is all about the momentum, you know, and you want to carry that through. Longuet is a perfect example. He managed to certainly transfer that effort from Suzuka into this run here at Imola now. Beresnay is going to get us underway. Crossing the line now, heading down now towards Tamburello, and he's going to be setting our first lap here in Q2. Heading down now towards this very, very fast section, because the chicane so treacherous. You can see the sausage curves on the inside. You get on those, you certainly will unsettle the car. Heading on the outset, down now towards Villeneuve, where he'll beat turns 5 and 6, and then make his way up the hill towards the Tosa left-hander as well. Try and keep the car pinned in, as I said earlier on. Once again, feathering that throttle. Beresnay setting immediately at 23.6 in that first sector, which is very competitive, certainly to say the least. And still no one has topped him. As I say that, though, Thomas Ronhart at 23.5 in Sector 1. As now Beresnay makes his way through Acca Minerale, still looking extremely dialed in. He's fresh off the back of securing that 15th fastest in Q1, and enough to get himself through by the skin of his teeth as he now makes his way out to the Variante Alta. Now down the hill towards turn 16, and then later turn 17. Ravazza now coming up next. So imperative that they could try and launch something big around this section of curbing. So they make their way now down towards the home straight. You just see them now jettisoning past the paddock and the pit lane. Here comes Beresnay, a 1:13 to get us underway, and that's not bad either.
No, you'd expect these to be on used tyres. 13.5, of course. Beresnay did a 13.3 in Q1, so you'd expect these to be a little bit slower. Thomas Ronald 13.4 on that first attempt. Just behind him is Longuet, also on a 13.4. Borman 13.6. These are all on used tyres. Otis Lawrence just slightly in front there, 13.410 on that first run. Wilson Hughes 13.5. And then Jarno Watmere straight to the top, 13.3. Great effort on the used tyres there as he came through. So he goes to the top of the order for the moment. So no times on the board for Ido, Pookie, Manley, Brendan Lee or Lucas Blakely. They may not opt to go for a used tyre run at all. They may just go for a new set and put everything on that run. But Jarno Watmere currently fastest on that initial run, so he'll be very pleased with that. So Jake Benham currently in P10, but of course we still have 5 drivers still yet to set times or come out of the pit lane, and it's all about being in the top 10 to make it through to Q3 in this parts of qualifying for the shootout for pole position. So interesting signs, but just to keep in mind, of course, fastest time in Q1 a 13.0, so still plenty of time on the board.
Yeah, I mean, I get the vibe at the moment. Obviously, this seems to be a bit of a change in the winds here at Mercedes. I mean, obviously, Otmir knows that he's in contention for the championship here. 13 points away, which is basically nothing. A single race can turn that around, Jack. Do you think that's giving him a little bit of extra grit, a little bit of extra motivation, if you need any motivation, certainly here in PSGL? Obviously, it's all about bragging rights, and generally we speak about it time and time again. The winner of PSGL generally becomes the F1 Esports champion. I get the feeling that Otmir's got a little bit of extra drive now coming into this season. I think now he's got that semblance of hope. He's 13 points away, and he's very well aware that one weekend can change his fortune straight away.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at this time, sort of last season or last game cycle, Jarno wasn't really up at that level, and he would admit that himself. Was struggling last season. Wants to turn around his fortunes in this game, or in this game cycle, and it seems to be working for him so far. And possibly the determination of finishing second on 4 occasions is probably also giving him a push that he wants to finally get himself across the line in P1 and continue his record of winning in every single season so far. So looking good for Jarno so far. We'll see if he can carry that forward into the next parts of qualifying. Needs to get himself through to Q3 first of all to make sure he's in the fight for that. So he's back in the pit lane now, and we'll see what he does. But you've got Istvan Pukki, Tom Manley and Danny Beresnay, who's done a very quick turnaround there, straight back out onto the circuit. And you can expect these to be brand new tyres on these cars. And well, you also have last week's pole sitter out on track as well, Brendan Lee, and he's also the pole sitter and winner from the last time we were at Imola, so he does like it round here. He
does, and we've yet to see him put a lap together here in Q2. It's the valid lap at this point. Jarno Otmir currently holds on to the P1 time with a 1:13.381. Not a bad place to be, with Otis Lawrence as well in second. I can tell you that the purple sectors are currently divided between 3 drivers. Otmir holding the purple first sector with a 23.5, and then in the second sector that's held by Nicholas Longay with a 25.144, with Otis Lawrence taking a 24.505 to take the fastest purple sector 3. So incredible to see Otis still back at the very top end, fighting it out with the very best. Incredible to think that this young man is only 15 years of age, still not of age to compete in F1 Esports, but still nevertheless competitive enough to challenge against the very best in the current crop of certainly the F1 Esports drivers that compete across the globe in the finest competition on the F1 gaming series. And certainly at this point now, Pukki is going to be the next driver to set a lap here, and he's got a string of cars in behind him that are going to look to do exactly the same as well. Brendan Lee being one of them. Josh Ido will be joining him too. Danny Beresnay looking to try and enlist certainly a very fast, stellar second flying lap here in Q2. As we're now seeing Istvan Pukki make his way down towards Villeneuve in the Aston Martin. We allude to the fact that this young man, of course, I would call him a giant killer. He certainly is. He has won races at the top end of league racing before against the best in the business, including here in PSGL. I believe it was at Spa, Jack, that Istvan Pukki managed to win.
Yeah, he did. In mixed conditions, Istvan Pukki tends to excel in those conditions, and he did take his first ever victory from seemingly nowhere. I think it was P15 on the grid he came from to win at Spa. So Istvan Pukki, of course, now in his new role, development driver at Ferrari Esports as well, alongside 4 other drivers that have signed with them as well. You've got Mirko Suriano, Dylan Warren as well, now a Ferrari driver. Who would have thought that? Well done to Dylan. Not with us this week, but part of that Ferrari academy lineup now, as well as Pukki comes through the final 2 corners. But you would expect it was about time that those guys started getting picked up by teams. So good stuff from Istvan Pukki in top of the order, 13.2 on that attempt. Danny Beresnay beats him with a 13.074.
That's a very good lap there from Danny Beresnay. Thomas Ronhaar, though, did take the purple first sector, a 23.449 in that first sector. The last sector, Tom Manley enlists a 24.413 in sector 3, goes second fastest. Thomas Ronhaar now looks to try and take them all on. Brendan Lee third fastest. Here comes now Thomas Ronhaar, invalidating his run though, and certainly that does not help, and that of course now leading to him not able to secure it. Nicholas Longay now though goes fastest, a 13.046, a mere 300ths faster than Danny Beresnay, as Lucas Blakely goes 4th fastest as well.
And Otis Lawrence sets the same time as Beresnay. Here comes Otmir, goes in on a 13.226, but Longuet is in fine form, isn't he? Straight to the top of the order again. Beresnay, though, just in at the moment. Same time as Otis Lawrence. Lucas Blakely there in P4. Tom Manley in the mix as well. Boerman, Ozilder, Otmir and Pookie currently are drivers that are currently in to Q3. So it's going to be tight, isn't it? 13.0 for the top 4. And then a 13.2 the cutoff, and this is going to be very, very tight. We've got guys behind him we're almost certain can go faster. Ronar, though, all the pressure on his back now, invalidated his run, so leaves it all on the table for this final run. But there is one thing's for certain: Thomas Ronar, if he on a qualifying lap, if he's got one attempt, he's going to give it everything.
They are, and you can bet your bottom dollar, folks, that these cars now are going to make their way into the pit lane and very quickly make their way out. There you can see the gaps in between the drivers. Look at that, the top 6 all within a tenth of a second. Danny Beresnay and Otis Lawrence, as you so rightly say, Jack, share a time that is 27 thousandths off Nicholas Longuet's fastest lap, with Lucas Blakely just a solitary 10th, or should I say a solitary 1,000th over that half a tenth of a second mark in 4th place as well. Incredible scenes. Barry Burman just in behind as well, 7th place, just above the 10th of a second. Behind him as well, Ulas Ozilder, who I must say is having a tremendous run here in qualifying, and currently sits in a position where he can take it into Q3 as well. So let's see if he can achieve that. He's currently ahead of Jarno Otmir, who's in 9th. Istvan Pukki currently holding on to 10th. So if anything changes, or certainly conditions-wise, I mean, we're not expecting any rain at all here at this point in quali. It's all down to the drivers now to mastermind their way around this track. Now, the difficulty factor is this: Thomas Ronhaar and Marcel Kiefer both invalidating those runs as well. This puts them in a very severe predicament, and if you want to know the difference between success and failure, certainly when it comes to qualifying in PSGL, it is so minimal. The threshold is so tight, Jack, because remember, Ronhaar was easily in that top 10. He's now down in 14th.
Yeah, and leaves it all with one run. So again, losing half a tenth could lose you up to 4 places in this particular grid. And well, Longuet playing so much confidence now going forward from last week. Currently tops the order and is now retired from the sessions. He's just going to watch and wait while everyone else races around him. Marcel Kiefer straight back out onto the circuit along with Otis Lawrence. So they're going to go straight back out and go again. It's interesting that Otis has gone again. He doesn't feel that he's safe up there in P3 on a 13.074. And in reality, I would sort of agree with him, because it's so tight back there. You cannot afford to get complacent behind and think that you're going to be safe, because everyone else behind you could also improve just that small bit and jump in front of you. I mean, all it's going to take is a 1,000th of a second to move in front of Danny Beresnay.
Yeah, absolutely right. And it's literally the finest of gaps. And naturally, at this point, Kiefer, who's going to be leading them out, needs to try and plug in his best laps now. The bottom 5, after this lap is complete, they could well be saying goodbye and not featuring in Q3 at all. The top 10 is all that goes through. It's only down now to those out on track now in these final moments here in Q2 to marshal in their best laps. We're now within the final 2 minutes, and it's all about getting those tyres up to temperature. The track now sits at 29 degrees. It has gone up. Brendan Lee receives a 5-place grid penalty for illegal blocking, yet to further our claim for a restart after the end of qualifying. So sit tight, everybody, as now Kiefer makes his way through the Variante Alta before then making his way down towards the Ravazza section to get his final lap, his final flying lap, should I say, in Q2 underway. Down now the hill, making his way out. There's a conglomerate of cars in behind, including that of Otis Lawrence, who, despite only being 28 thousandths off the top time, Danny Beresnay retiring with a 27 thousandths away from Nicholas Longuet. Now the cars make their way down towards Tamburello. Here comes now Marcel Kiefer. Needs to lift himself off the bottom. This lap is so key, Jack.
It is Marcel Kiefer, all in his shoulders now. Showed good pace in Q1, See if he can get himself through to Q3, and maybe repeat what he did in Hungary. Come out of the blocks and take a pole position. And of course, the race didn't quite go his way, but he'll be looking to change that this week. So the direction change through the middle part of Villeneuve there is incredible to watch. 700s up on his best time. Marcel Kiefer on a mad one here as he comes up the hill in his Mercedes, trying to get himself through into Q3. Would love to get both Mercedes through, but again, such talent on this grid, such competitiveness. It could be fine margins that knock you out here, and he can't afford to invalidate either. He's got to push the limits, but not go over them, and that can be a very, very fine balance as he comes up towards the next chicane. 0.2 of a second up on his last time. Really good effort from Marcel Kiefer. That's just in the middle sector as well. 13.6 was his previous lap, so you would expect a big improvement here, and he needs a big improvement to get himself through, safely through, for that regard, into Q3, down into the last two corners, uses all the road, comes through the last part of the lap here. It looked neat and tidy from Marcel Kiefer. Is this enough to get himself through to Q3? It is, and it goes to the top of the order. That's what he needed.
Yeah, he certainly did. In fact, was very close to the purple lap that Otis Lawrence set in sector 2, but Otis has now stunned him. Heading through, Ulas Yildirim as well has gone fourth fastest too. Plenty of laps now as we now see the drivers making their way in towards the final sector. I'm currently looking on my screen, Wilson Hughes now coming in towards the latter stages. His teammate Lucas Blakely also about to cross the line. Remember, he wasn't far away from the top, but now can't improve on his lap. Here comes his teammate Wilson Hughes. Can he jettison higher and higher? 11th fastest, Hughes is out. Barry Burman on the bubble. He could be evicted. He is evicted. It is Barry out in Q2. Jarno Opmeer at risk of losing out as well, but he is in positive delta. He has every chance of coming out of 14th fastest and landing himself in the top 10. Here comes Jarno Opmeer, 9th fastest. He's through and ahead of the current F1 Esports champion Lucas Blakely. Stamps his ticket. He is through into Q3, but Otis Lawrence, a stellar lap at the front end with matching times with Josh Eno, 1 and 2. Again, we're seeing matching times, but I've got to say, Jack, agreeing with you, that was such a massive lap for Marcel Kiefer.
Oh, Marcel delivered, but how about the gap? There was less than a tenth between the top 600ths of a second between the top 10, and almost a tenth between the whole field. 2/10 down to Isfan Pukki. What a qualifying. What Q2 and Otis Lawrence and Josh Ida are completely inseparable at the top. Marcel Kiefer, Nicholas Longe, Ulas Yildirim, an absolute hat tip. He hasn't even played the game for long. Straight through to Q3. Ronar Beresnay, Brendan Lee, Jarno Opmeer and Lucas Blakely are through to Q3. Tom Manley is out, and the big story, Barry Burman out in Q2. Championship rival Jarno Opmeer is through to Q3. Wilson Hughes also out. Jake Benham and Istvan Pukki. Absolutely incredible. 600ths of a second from being in or out.
Incredible. And I think that could well be a catalyst. Offer Jarno Opmeer that lifeline. He's through to Q3. His title rival isn't. The current championship leader out of qualifying as of Q2. And I think in many ways, on any other day, Jack, that lap gets you through into Q3, does it not?
On any other day, yes, but the fact that we're talking about this level of drivers, that's in or out, and that's as simple as. And it's incredible. You've got Otis Lawrence top of the session, Josh Eno matching him to the 1,000th of a second, only that he set the time after Otis is the only reason that he's second. 5,000ths back from him was Marcel Kiefer. Huge lap, delivered when he needed to, and is now straight through to Q3. But what is this pole shootout going to give us? Because this has been so close. This could be a case of we could have a sort of Jerez 97 situation.
Well, I'm hoping that's just the dress rehearsal, Jack. I want to see the full thing in action. I mean, we could yet, like you say, Jerez 97, Villeneuve, Frentzen, Schumacher. We could get the same thing here this time at Imola. We can only wait and see. But what about Otis Lawrence as well? Youngest competitor certainly in this grid. Only 15 years old. Fastest of anybody in such a close qualifying. That's got to speak volumes about the youngster.
It does, and we'll see if he can keep the momentum going forward. Of course, he did have a win, but it was, of course, voided because of the tire glitch as well. And there was again, he would lost it anyway due to the pit lane infringement. But he'll take some confidence going forward into this part of qualifying. But let's see if he can deliver on pole position, because seemingly out of nowhere, George, we haven't mentioned him at all. Josh Ito, where's that pace come from?
Yeah, I mean, again, he's another man to watch. But this isn't the first time we've seen Josh Ito give sporadic, incredible qualifying laps. Remember back in Abu Dhabi in F1 Esports, that stellar pole position lap that granted me, might I add, folks at home, my incredible prediction, and where I went 3 from 3 in one single F1 Esports event, which no one could believe. But I tell you what, I think what was more impressive about that was Josh Ito's lap, managing to grab pole position. He's got form at pulling surprise qualifying laps. So, I give him a lot of credit for his hard work. And I tell you what, give him every little chance. He will perform on his best day. Many other drivers as well to keep an eye on. I would argue Ulas Yildirim. I mean, what has happened to that young man? Of course, I don't think I've ever seen him at this top end at this point. Q3, he's in with a chance of delivering for his team.
Certainly is. And what a performance from Ulas, straight out of the box. Hasn't raced so far this season, of course. Is racing for FaZe Clan in ESL R1. Has jumped back in and is straight away on it. And it'll take some great confidence from that. Some of the best pace we've seen from Yildirim recently. But there's quite a lot on the line here in this pole shootout. But the big moment for Jarno now, his championship rival is out of this part of qualifying. And as well, Brendan Lee got through as well. Let's not forget, Brendan Lee is in this title fight as well. 18 points off the championship lead. So he could start bringing himself in to this fight now properly, start closing the gap to the guys in front. 18 points off the lead, only a couple of points behind Jarno as well. So there's a real chance for Brendan Lee to get in the mix here. Both of the Alphas making it through, and both of the Mercedes getting through there as well. Now we saw the team play between the Ferraris last week. Of course, the box maneuver, as we saw it, between Barry Bormand and Nicholas Longe, trying to box Thomas Ronar in towards turn 1. Now Nico doesn't have the support of Barry up towards the front, but he does have 2 Alfa Romeos and 2 Mercedes to deal with.
Yes, and that could prove complicated. And we've spoken about rivalries, Jack. We've had plenty of them. We speak about the Jarno rivalry with Barry Burman. That has existed since well before PSGL, since they both competed in the PC Championship. It all really started at ORL. Those two were absolutely at each other's throats right through that campaign over multiple seasons. They then came to PSGL in season 27. The rivalry continued, and it got more and more volatile. And we're now seeing it again. And there's never anything much better than a Barry Burman and Jarno Opmeer fight. Opmeer now, you could argue, the upper hand here at Imola, certainly granting the fact that he is in Q3. Various other factors currently in the works. Thomas Ronhard, we've got to speak about his own rivalry with Jarno Opmeer as well. All the words that have been discussed, everything that has been said on social media and on live streams as well, as we now see Danny Berejnay make his way around the Tosa section. Heading up now towards the Piratella. And a 23.5 is what Danny Berejnay has managed to enlist as he now descends towards Acca Minerale. 23.4 for Thomas Ronhart. At this point, Otis Lawrence steals the fastest first sector of anybody. 23.5 already from Otis Lawrence, who is certainly bringing his best here to the forefront. As Danny Berejnay enlists a 25.091, heading out of Variante Alta, now down towards Ravazza, where he'll look to continue this run, certainly continue the pace, try and elevate himself higher and higher. I can tell you this, that Nicholas Longe has in fact invalidated his first run, so that will only give him effectively 1 flying lap here at this point. As now up towards the line comes Danny Berejnay, fastest of all, and that's a stellar run as well. Sending Nicholas Longe isn't going to be a concern right now, but Otis Lawrence might be. Makes his way through, purple in the middle sector, stole it away from Danny Berejnay. Thomas Ronar has taken the purple first sector as well. The second sector split as Otis crossed the line. Jarno Opmeer holds it, currently makes his way through, but also his teammate Marcel Kiefer is also in with a shot, but he's invalidated. That final sector has invalidated the run. He was purple in the second sector, Jack.
What a time from Ronar, 12.9 immediately. Thomas Ronar straight to the top of the order. Josh Ito 13.1. Otis Lawrence on a 13.003. Lucas Blakely 13.030 on his first run. But what an effort from Thomas Ronar, straight into the 12s on that first attempt. Jarno Watmere across the line, 13.150 on that first lap. Longe, of course, invalidated his time. I can tell you, Kiefer invalidated a 12.9 as well. He's in the mix, really, in this one is Marcel Kiefer, 12.99, but invalidated that time, so he's going to have to go again. But a potential front row on the cards there for Marcel Kiefer. But Thomas Ronar straight away out of the blocks with a 12.9, lays down the gauntlet straight away.
Yeah, I mean, I think Marcel will be kicking himself there, Jack. I mean, it's really, really a pressure cooker scenario, especially in Q3. You're fighting in the top 10 for pole position. In fact, let us know in the live chat, by the way. We want to hear from you. Let us know who your candidate for pole position here in PSGL, here at Imola is. We want to hear from you. But I want to talk about that Kiefer lap, because that could have so easily been a top lap. He was so fast in that middle sector. And Purple, obviously, we obviously spoke about it. He could have very easily taken the top time there. Would have been on equal equilibrium with that of Thomas Ronhaar at that point. Certainly when it came down to laying down a fast lap. But I tell you what, a 12.902 for Ronhaar is stellar. A whole tenth of a second faster than Otis Lawrence in second place. You know, you get the feeling that the Dutch driver's best form is back with him.
It certainly is. I think it seems to be 12.9, and it gives him a chance now. He's got that amazing banker under his belt. He can push harder on this second run, try and extend that lead. Of course, Brendan Lee didn't get the time in either, so he'll have to go again. Kiefer's going to have to go again. He'll be absolutely, as you said, kicking himself with that invalidation. Could be currently sitting P2. Nicholas Longe, he invalidated in the middle sector, so he won't quite know what his pace is like. There's a couple of guys in there who I reckon have got more. Danny Berezny has definitely got more in the tank. Remember, he went faster than he currently has in Q1. He did a 13.0, I believe, in Q1, or close enough to it. Jarno, of course, has gone a little bit faster in Q2, did a 13.0 there. So there is more in the tank. Josh Ito, we know, can do a 13.0. We've seen him do it in Q2. So there's lots to think about here, but the gauntlet has well and truly been laid down by Thomas Ronar. He's got a 10th in hand with Otis Lawrence and has the chance to push even more going into this one. But unsurprisingly, George, getting us underway for the final runs of Q3, Marcel Kiefer straight back out. Yeah, we want to hear from you, folks. Make sure you keep on using the live chat. We're getting lots of names coming in. Jarno for pole, Ulas for pole, Marcel Kiefer. Plenty of names. Keep them coming. We want to hear from you. Fill up that live chat. Make sure you keep it busy. Don't forget as well to leave a like. Leave a subscribe if you haven't done so as well to the PSGL channel. Marcel Kiefer not wasting any time at all. He is getting himself out and ready to land a stellar qualifying blow. Needs to now. It's all on this lap. There's nothing else he can do. This is a highly pressurised scenario. And look at the names as well. I haven't yet set those valid laps here, Jack. Longe, who won last time out. Kiefer, who of course was stellar in the second sector last time. Looked like it was going to be a fast run. And Brendan Lee, also a race winner and a pole sitter at this very track. Absolutely, yeah. We've got multiple pole sitters here waiting to go. Longe's had a pole position. Sorry, he hasn't. Marcel, not this season anyway. Marcel Kiefer has, and Brendan Lee has last time out. Of course, he took pole position in Japan, but was beaten by Nicholas Longe at the flag. Ronar, of course, has also had a pole position to his name. So we've got lots to keep our eyes on here, and this is a difficult one to see who's going to actually take pole here. Özildirim, I think, will be incredibly happy to even be in Q3, considering how little time he's had to prepare, but you'd wager he's got more. I reckon that time of 13.2 has got to be on scrub tyres, because he certainly did with light of the timing screens in Q2 towards the end to the 13.0. So this could be anyone's game, but it will be all in the hands of Ronard to hang on to that gap. But last car out on the track is Jarno. Wants the best track conditions and has left it to the last possible moment to cross the start-finish line here. But it will be his teammate Marcel who will get us underway here. He knows he's got pace for this, but needs to deliver. Yeah, extends out wide, heading out of what used to be the Variante Barca, of course, where there used to be a chicane prior to the start-finish line. Now makes his way down towards Tamburello. Very key to hook this up. Now, what I can tell you at home, folks, is that the track
is the coolest we have seen it since Q1. It's 27 degrees, so that only makes the 112.902 even more stellar.
Invalid.
From Thomas Ronnar, and Kiefer's invalidated. Incredible, already invalidating his lap. Pressure has got to him, obviously, and now the very best he can score here, Jack, is P9.
Yeah, that's it, unfortunately. That's Kiefer will not have time to go again, but it's all now in the hands of the rest of the grid. Lucas Blakely, half a tenth up in the first sector, and that'll be certainly a great lap if he can hook this one together. The reigning F1 Esports champion trying to hook it together here at Imola. Heads up towards the Sector 2 split now. Will go across, and he's 700ths of a second up. This is a great lap from Lucas Blakely. Needs to hook up this final sector down towards the last two corners. This could be enough to challenge for pole here. He's done it before. Multiple pole sitter, a reigning champion in PSGL a couple of seasons ago. Won it in Monza, of course. Controversial one between himself, Boerman, and Freddie Rasmussen, but now needs to deliver in the final sector. Here comes Lucas Blakely. Does he challenge? Just behind by just a couple of thousandths, but currently P2.
Yeah, he certainly is. In comes Danny Berejnay as well to the forefront, of course, looking very solid with a 23.5, 23.0 in sectors 1 and 2. Third fastest is where he goes as well. Here comes Longue to the top with a 1:12.807. Blasts away. Thomas Ronnar, Otis Lawrence second fastest, and here they come now. Thick and fast. Brendan Lee to the top. No, he can't. He's invalidated. P9 for Kiefer, but Thomas Ronnar now, who currently sits with a 25.057 in sector 2, has just seen his time slip away. Ulas Yildirim second fastest. Here comes Ronnar. Wow, to the top. A 1:12.8 flat. Incredible. 7 thousandths faster than Nicholas Longue Jack Canan. That is absolutely unbelievable.
And Jarno just crossed the line there for P6, but incredible lap from Thomas Ronnar. 7 thousandths was all that was in it. Longue back on the front row, but George Ulas Yildirim, P3 on his return to the top order. Otis Lawrence is P4, Blakely 5th, Otmir 6th, Berejnay 7th, Ido, Kiefer and Lee the top 10, but Ronnar back on pole position with Nicholas Longue alongside. What a grid. What a grid this is turning out to be. Jarno starting P6, Barry starting P12, and Brendan starting P10. So none of our championship contenders are in a prime position here, but what a battle that was. What a great lap from Ronnar to deliver at the very end. Longue, I thought he had it right at the very end, but just nipped by 6 1,000ths of a second. But the hero of the day, George, is Ulas Yildirim. Third place, straight away at a track like this where qualifying is so tight. That is incredible from the Turk.
It is, isn't it? Absolutely sensational. I mean, Thomas Ronnar, of course, we've got superlatives to write against this young man. Of course, he's done it time and time again. He is a fast talent. Longue, of course, winning last time at Japan. Front row of the grid yet again. Ulas Yildirim, though, however, Jack, someone who has always been around the circle of F1 League racing, but we've never ever seen him, I suppose, rise to the occasion quite like this before. I do wonder whether that experience in ESL R1 has perhaps offered him that little bit something extra, that little bit of confidence that every driver needs.
Certainly is. Well, this is just going to give him more and more confidence, especially when you're talking about a track that's as tight in qualifying as we've seen Imola be. To be right up at the front end of that order is going to give him so much confidence going into the new season as well. Only 300ths off of pole in that one as well, so he'll be very, very happy with that. Otis Lawrence P4, Lucas Blakely P5 as well, to come back to that as well. Jarno starting behind him, of course, as well. But this is going to make for some interesting viewing because this championship could switch around quite a lot because of the way our championship contenders are positioned. P6 for Jarno, P12 for Barry, and P10 for Brendan. So at the moment, both of Barry's championship rivals are starting in front of him and in the points.
Yeah, and yeah, I'll tell you what, this is absolutely fascinating. This grid lineup is fascinating. I'd argue that Mercedes a little bit underwhelming here, Jack.
I think they'll be disappointed with not getting up towards front end. Marcel will be very disappointed because of those double invalidations. Knows he could have been in that top 5 at the very least, but couldn't quite hook up that lap inch perfect at the end and has to start P9. But again, P9 is not the end of the world, only a couple of positions behind his teammate, but knows he could have been in the mix up there, starting P5, P6 roughly with his teammate, but every position counts around here. Qualifying super important around here, and we'll see if we can have another lights to flag victory, because we've only had one race here before, which is season 30. It was lights to flag for Brendan Lee, and last time, of course, in Japan, the pole sitter didn't win. It's almost the same grid again, George. There's an Alpha starting on pole with Nicholas Longue in P2, and the last time we had that, Longue won. So let's see how this goes.
Yeah, some very familiar names, certainly featuring up at the sharp end, including one Otis Lawrence, who I will keep on preaching time after time, because I cannot believe the audacity on this young man to perform at this level. That he certainly does so, and of course many tout him to be a future F1 esports star, and for such a young head on such shoulders to try and qualify even against a grid such as this is one thing, but then to land it within proximity of pole position is something else. Within the same tenth of a second, only mere hundredths off the top time. Incredible performance, and I think a bold claim for this young man to become an F1 esports driver in the future is not necessarily oh so bold. It is so real, but can't wait to see whether he can deliver this time around. We're going to take a quick break, folks. We'll be right back. Keep it with us, and we'll be racing very shortly around the Emilia-Romagna circuit. Stay with us. Well, welcome back, folks, and as you can see, of course, PSGL brought to you by GT Omega and, of course, Virage as well. Great to have those guys on board. We're getting ready, folks, for the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, the race around Imola with the championship on the line. Barry Burman currently holding on to the top with 62 points to his name, only 13 points behind Jarno Opmeer as well on 49. Only, as I said, 13 points away off the top. Given the fact that qualifying has now intervened, that championship is effectively blown wide open, Jack.
It is. I got Brendan Lee and Jarno Opmeer starting in the points. Barry not starting in the points in P12. So we'll see how he deals with that. Of course, we know that they'll be prepared for this in some way. But again, Nicholas Longue starting P2. So that might work to his advantage a little bit. Teammates starting up towards the front end. Barry starting further back. If it does come to it, I can imagine we've seen the team tactics work between them before. He'll do his best to help his teammate out in the championship, of course. They're fighting for Constructors' title as well at the same time, looking to get as much points as possible. But there's a lot on the line here. Barry's got it all to do here. But again, it's up to Jarno and Brendan to capitalise. When somebody else doesn't have a good qualifying, you also need to deliver on the races yourself. So let's see if they can do that. But Longue is going to try to go for 2 wins. Ronner is trying to also get his second win on the board here as well. We might end up having our first repeat winner here this week. But again, there's a lot that can happen in the meantime. We've got plenty in the mix as well. Otis Lawrence is in the mix there as well in P4. In the end of this, Yildirim could spring a surprise. We don't know that yet. There could be safety cars, anything. Alfie Butcher starting down the back as well with a 5-second time penalty as well to serve in this race. So he'll obviously have a tough time of it. We've also got Freddie Rasmussen. Remember what Rasmussen did last week? Did an incredible strategy, stayed on the hards, for a long time, stayed out, was right in contention for the win towards the end. So I'm not going to count out Freddie Rasmussen for this either.
No, I mean, look, hey, if Rasmussen does it, if at the same time, if we see the likes of Ulas as Jordan do it, Jack, that'd be our 7th different race winner this season, which would be absolutely extraordinary. I don't think we've ever had a season where we've had this amount or this many race winners throughout a season.
I think it's 5, I think was the most we've had in a season. So I think we've already beaten it with 6. But we've never had 7 in this short space of time. So, I mean, I'm all for going for another record with 7 different winners in a season. Almost like 2012 real F1 this season for some reason.
Yeah, well, if I tell you what, folks, I see you guys in the chat, a lot of demand around where can I see the standings. Well, I can tell you the standings are available on the PSGL website. That's Premier Sim GL, and you can find, obviously, that. I mean, even if you type it on Google, Premier Sim Gaming Leagues PSGL, of course, you can access and get updates as to what the standings show. Not to mention, as well, you can go ahead to social media on Premier Sim GL. Make sure you follow the Twitter handle, and you can stay up to date as well with all the latest detail around the championship as well. So lots there to look at. Make sure, of course, you check out PSGL on Instagram as well as TikTok at Premier Sim GL on there as well. Very consistent theme where it comes to the @ tag, so you can check that out too. But yes, lots on the line. Championship still in full swing. It's been a good season for Alfa Romeo, Jack. Of course, we allude to the fact that the teamwork, the unlikely teamwork between Brendan Lee and Thomas Ronha certainly is working. They currently sit P3 and 4 in the championship, with Brendan Lee seemingly back to his vintage best to a certain degree. Race winner, podium sitter, pole sitter, and sits on 42 points and only 20 points behind our current championship leader.
Yeah, he's back on form. Got pole position last week. Didn't quite convert it to victory, but still managed to hang on for a podium position in the end. So he's, again, in the championship fight here. And great to see him back on form as well. We've missed this Brendan Lee fighting up towards the front end. Of course, 2-time F1 Esports champ, and is sort of hitting his stride again. Can tell you, folks, we should be getting underway very soon. We are waiting for drivers to join the lobby. We've had to do a restarts with everything. So we've not got Freddie Rasmussen, unfortunately. He's not going to be able to make the race. So we're going to be starting with 19, unfortunately, for Freddie Rasmussen. He won't be taking any further part. We just got that confirmed from Yanni Imola, who is our lobby host for this evening as well. So thanks to Yanni for sorting the grid. Countdown has started, so 19 drivers will start this Grand Prix. And of course, with the changes, with dynamic weather now enabled, the conditions could be totally different from what they expected. Yeah,
no, absolutely. I agree with you, Jack. It's certainly going to be interesting to see how the drivers can certainly battle with the factor of weather as well. Because obviously we're in a dynamic weather scenario, which of course was something that was brought in earlier on this season. Then not to mention as well the fact that Imola in itself is a very competitive circuit and very tricky to manage. ERS management is going to be huge. Tyre management huge as well. There are so many elements to certainly be concerned about, and strategy is going to be huge too. Given the fact there's not a lot of overtaking going on, you do have to pick your spots. But I need to ask you guys at home in the chat, let us know who your pick for race winner is going to be. Light up the live chat now, Jack Canan. Who do you think it's going to be?
Well, from the form book from last week, we have an Alfa on pole, a Ferrari in second, and the Ferrari's Nicolas Longa. I'm going to go Nicolas Longa again.
Well, there you
That's
go.
my prediction.
That's the form card from Jack Canan. I'm getting some views here from you guys at home as well. DRS Pepchin saying Ulas, Dragon Hunter Sam saying Yano, Longa says Sakib Khan, with Yatin Pengaroo as well, or Pangaroo, should I say? Sorry about that. Yano for the win. Also for the down, Tengi says Lucas. Big Kem Mina says Ulas. We've got Gotar as well. We're getting names here. Ronha, Jana Watmere, Conor McDonough getting a name from Dylan Warren. There you have it. Jana Watmere, Brendan Lee getting a nudge as well. More nudges for Brendan Lee, including that of Thomas Ronha. Lucas, Jano, Ulas. We've got more for Watmere. Of course, Jano, a very popular man here in the world of PSGL. All the lights now becoming lit here at Imola. And it's pedal to the metal. And it is go, 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 go. Thomas Ronha with a great launch. In comes Nicolas Longa as well. Looking to join him down towards Tamburello, as well as Otis Lawrence battling with Ulas Yildirim, who instantly tries to take third place. And not only that, he's got second. Ulas Yildirim getting the jump of his life. He's now into into second place ahead of Nicholas Longue. What a move, Jack Canan.
Big problems for Borman. Spin in turn one, drops to the back of the order. Big problems for the championship leader. He's down in P18, collision with another car, and now he dropped back to P18. So big moment in the championship. But Ulas Yildirim, what a start. Gets himself through to P2, challenging Ronar up at the front for the lead right now. But this is a big moment in the championship. Brendan Lee holding 10th, Jarno holding 6th, Barry all the way down the back. He's got it all to do now.
He certainly does. I tell you what, the race starting to unfurl already. Not wasting any time though. However, Barry Burman trying to lurch himself forward. 17th place, jumps ahead of Fabrizio Donoso. Jake Benham also doing the same as well, heading in towards Varian Tialta as they now descend, coming down towards the Ravazza section. There you can see them now, nose to tail. Thomas Ronhar leading the way. Ulas Yildirim there in second place. Pookie now moves up to 13th as well. Just look at the gaps, folks. So slender between them all. Here comes Ulas Yildirim now. Makes his way down towards Tamburello. Ronhar, as you'd expect, setting the fastest lap of the race, considering that he leads the way. Ulas, though, choosing not to make the necessary move. Wilson Hughes, side by side now with Brendan Lee. Moves up into P10 as well from the Scotsman. And now, certainly at this point, the McLarens are going to try and lurch forward. Blakely had a very positive start, still remains fourth.
Yeah, good start from him as well. I think it's top 9 all on mediums. Wilson Hughes on the softs, and the split strategies down the rest of the order. Hards for Brendan Lee, down to Fabrizio Donoso, apart from Istvan Pukuz on the medium. So split the grid in half with one driver on the softs and a couple of drivers on mediums, the rest of the grid on mediums and the rest of the grid on hards. So interesting strategy there. Alfie Butcher up to 14th. He started last, of course, so making some decent progress there. But that was a fantastic start, but disastrous start from Barry Borman. Didn't quite catch what happened. I just saw the car facing the wrong way in turn 1. So we may have to have a look at that after the race again later on. But Ronar leads. Donoso gets the first penalty, lap 2. Already picking up 3-second time penalties. But Ronar leads. Ulas Yildirim running in a fantastic second place. Nicholas Longue third. Then it's Blakely and Lawrence up here holding 6th. Ido, Beresnay, Kiefer, Hughes. Your top 10, no moves being made at the moment. DRS will be enabled on this lap, as you can see at the top of your screen. So now it's all a case of Yildirim now hanging behind. Of course, he'll be quite happy to sit here behind Ronar. Ronar in control, of course, for the moment. Going back to the start for just a second, Longue actually got the better start, but wasn't quite able to pull alongside Ronar in towards turn 1. But Yildirim was brave to find the gap, stick it up the inside, and Longue was smart enough to leave him in the room, as there's a lot of movement happening through there as Alfie Butcher gets 2 places.
Yeah, 2 places for the price of 1 overtake. A stellar move from Alfie Butcher as he now ascends from the back of the grid. Remember, obviously he sustained the quali ban and therefore started from the back of the grid, making his way through Tosa after Istvan Pukuz was pressurising Tom Manley. Butcher picked his spot and nestled the overtake in very smoothly indeed. Now behind Brendan Lee, 12th place now for Alfie Butcher, who's now on hard tyres strategic-wise, Jack. Not in a bad place.
No, he's the second hard runner right behind Brendan Lee. So from the back of the grid, that's a great effort from Alfie Butcher to get up towards the back of the DRS train here. And he's now behind Brendan Lee, who's the lead car on the hard compound tyres. The cross to begin. Lap number 4 of 32. DRS will be enabled on this lap as well. So you'll see the slipstream in full effect as they head towards turn 1. As Yildirim still happy to sit behind for the moment. No moves being made. Brendan Lee thinking about it on Wilson Hughes, who's on the soft tyres. Hasn't been able to make too much ground on them, really. Well, from where he is at the moment, sort of stuck behind Marcel Kiefer. Those softs are going to go off very quickly. So you'll start to see Brendan Lee start to make a move on him very soon. But fantastic ground made by the rest of the drivers there as they make their way through. But DRS enabled, as Yildirim happy to sit there for the moment. But Ronar still holding position, full control for him at the moment. He won't be worrying just yet, knows what to do in this position.
Yeah, certainly does so. Currently now we're watching Brendan Lee make his way through Aqua Minerale. Ahead of him as well, Wilson Hughes, as we alluded to, that group now starting to close up. Brendan Lee getting as close as to within 1.5 tenths of a second as they make their way through in towards Tamburello. Did have a look at a nose past Wilson Hughes. Of course, the problem for Hughes at this point is 3-lap-old softs, and obviously being stuck in between that of Kiefer and Lee with no signs of increase in placement. He's effectively in no man's land here, Jack, and strategically puts him at a bit of an imbalance at this point.
Yeah, so he's going to start going backwards rather than forwards in this situation. as they head towards turn 1. Longuet has a little look on Yildirim, not quite enough space to go for it there, but that'll cost them both time as they come down towards the next chicane. But here comes Blakely, fancies a little look on the inside, not enough room right there, but Longuet certainly thought about it into turn 1. Yildirim left him the room, but ultimately not enough to pull alongside the Turk right there, and has to sit behind for another lap.
Yeah, he certainly does. I tell you what, Blakely off the back of securing that victory in Formula Ford looks to come back here at PSGL full of venom. Of course, a race winner already this season, showing off those credentials against fellow race winner Nicolas Longuet. In behind, Otis Lawrence waiting for his opportunity to strike, losing out since the start of the race. Remember, he started on the second row of the grid, with Ulas Yildirim also starting on that same row, but managing to elevate his position up into second. I mean, what a race start that was, Jack. I tell you what, from a young man who was impressed us in qualifying, that race start was certainly something special.
It really was, and it was brave as well, sticking up the inside of Longuet, but Longuet was wise enough to leave him the room on the inside nose, as there's a long race ahead. No point in losing the front leg or anything, or throwing the whole race away straight away, so was smart enough to do that. Blakely pulling out of the slipstream down towards turn 1 here, quite happy to sit behind. You can sort of see the spread happening as they come down the straight. Don't want to close up too quickly to the cars in front. So it's still all nice and calm for the moment, relatively speaking, at the front end. The only little look we had was from Longuet on the inside, which nearly triggered 2 more moves behind him. But still Ronar in control, lap 6 of 32. And we still have a long way to go in this Grand Prix, but this could change the complexion of the championship. It could really bring it close if it does finish like this. If it finishes like this, it reduce the gap in the championship from 13 to 8 points. But you can expect some more changes throughout this race as we go through it. We still have Barry down in P17, and there's still a long way to go in this Grand Prix. There could be safety cars, there could be a lot that can happen in the meantime. But Ronar trying to go for his second victory this season. Ulas trying to go for his first ever in PSGL F1 at the same time. And Otis trying to go for his first this season. Jarmo trying to go for his first this season. Same with Josh Ito, same with Danny Beresney, and same with Marcel Kiefer, Wilson Hughes. So lots on the line here for these guys, but we could have a fairy tale story as they begin lap number 7. But Ronar still very comfortable out front at the moment.
Yeah, still in control, and in front by just over 3.5 tenths of a second. It's just broken into within 2 tenths, as well as Ulas looks to get himself in close. Of course, Longuet not quite as close to the Turk as he was prior. Of course, I think that's fired a warning shot almost to Longuet. Of course, trying to make those big, very overzealous overtakes. You don't want to do that, should we say, too early, because of course that could be the difference maker between you losing DRS on P2 and of course staying within touching distance of P1 as well. You need to really pick your spots. It's been vastly spoken about as well. Driving standards in league racing. Certainly many drivers have been challenged on their abilities behind the wheel, let alone their racecraft. So it's now down to those drivers here in PSGL and of those at the top end of league racing to try and manage the current circumstances around the flow, shall we say, of aero and also that of DRS as well. Jarno Watmir making his way out of the Variante Alta. Of course, has been in various fights this season, holds one of the highest records, certainly when it comes to podiums here in PSGL, certainly this season, level, in fact, with Barry Burman, both sharing 4 podiums apiece at this point. Burman, of course, going to work right now as he looks to try and nestle in and try and break away after that real hardship at the very start of the race that nestled him towards the back end of the field. Currently 6 there at the back end as now Ulas Yildirim takes the lead of the race here in lap 8 as well, ahead of Thomas Ronar, and now sees himself coming out of Tamburello. The Williams now strikes to the front. I tell you what, I'm getting a sense here from the Turk. He is looking to cause a shock here at PSGL here tonight.
Certainly is. Ulas Yildirim for the first time leads in PC F1 and PSGL. Ronar a bit wide through the hairpin as well, so we might just compromise him slightly, but confidence enough as Yildirim happy to sit behind for a certain amount, but now leads for the first time in Imola. Ronar behind him, Lucas Blakely and Nicolas Longuet chasing down as well, but it's starting to sort of concertina up in that middle pack as well, but Yildirim looking very good out the front. A little bit of a gap now, half a second, but Ronar has a chance now to sit behind, save up a little bit of ERS as he comes through into the last 2 corners for the 8th time so far in this race, but no sign of any pit stop even for Wilson Hughes. He's still out there on the soft tyres, so still hanging on, but is almost losing DRS to Marcel Kiefer, and there he goes. He has lost DRS just for the moment. May get back in just momentarily, but it's a bit of a struggle for the moment for the McLaren driver, who's hanging on at the moment. Doesn't even have the ERS, but Ronar swapping with Özildirim. No real fight put up by Özildirim there, and Ronar retakes the lead. So Ulash has now got the statistics underway. He's led a lap in PCF1, but now has to sit behind again.
Yeah, maybe Ronar just reminding young Ulas Özildirim to say, listen, mate, you know, you're not winning races here today, not if I can help it. Of course, trying to retake the just reminding Özildirim who the faster drivers are. But Ulas, certainly a competitor up at the highest level. Raced in the SLR1, as we alluded to during qualifying, racing for the now new to sim racing FaZe Clan, of course, who are generally known in the FPS world, not to mention League of Legends. They fought across the board in various different esports competitions, have now set their sights in the world of sim racing competition in F1 esports, not to mention battling with the likes of Ulas Özildirim in ESL R1. They've got a presence now, as we see Nicholas Longue right on the tail of Ulas Özildirim, and this might be a chance that Longue's been waiting for, heading out of Variante Alta. Özildirim just making a bit of a key mistake here, and will need to try and reharness himself heading out of Ravatsa too, but it's going to be very tricky. Again, a twitch from the front end, as now he looks to come under some convincing pressure. Tom Manley with a 3-second time penalty. Here comes last week's race winner, Nicholas Longue, who will certainly look for that P2. Will he try and break away? And as now we see Ulas jump down the inside, looking on the inside of Thomas Ronar, coming through the Tamburello section. Longue, who was caught a bit unawares, very nearly losing his front wing as a response, heading through that first chicane as they head towards Villeneuve. Özildirim now under a little bit of stress as last week's race winner comes into the fray.
That just shows you one mistake, and that's what kicks off behind you. Just coming through the chicane, just got a little bit loose, didn't get the exit, and now has to work harder to get back in there. Longue tried to capitalise, used up some ERS, but wasn't able to. And now Ronar has a little bit of a gap to work with now. Blakely in this as well. Lawrence in P5. Jarno down at about 0.7 of a second back from Otis Lawrence at the moment. Still a bit of work to do. Tom Manley has retired from the race in the pit lane, but Blakely is all over the back of Longue, coming through the chicane as into the braking zone. So there is plenty still on the table here. Ronar 60% DRS, Ulash with about 48. Longue with 71 now sitting behind. Blakely is in the best position at almost 100% charge in that McLaren. Can go for it if he wants to. He's got Otis Lawrence right behind him at the same time as Özildirim now peels into the pit lane. Probably the right choice there. We're starting to struggle on those tyres, but you can see this is interesting, George, because he's come in, the medium runners have come in. Wilson Hughes is still out there on the softs.
He is, and now we're seeing the tyre change underway. Hard tyres now nestled in on Ulas Özildirim. Now, reasoning behind that stop, Jack, and I think we'll all agree, Ulas's pace over a solitary lap is impressive. We saw it during qualifying. The undercut strategy has got to be on the cards, and I think that's exactly what he's playing.
Yeah, that's gotta be it, and it's also, you could see he was starting to struggle on those tyres. So the right call to come in, get off them as quickly as possible, and try to gain some track position here. So let's see what the response is from the top guys. Will they stick to the plan or respond? Because Ulash has got 17 seconds of clean air in front to work with as well. So it's not like he's come out in traffic. He's come out in lovely clean air with Istvan Pukki 4 seconds behind. He's got clean air in front, clean air behind. So let's see how this undercut strategy is going to work for him if possible. Heading down into the last two corners. Will anybody respond to that call from Ulash Özildirim to try and keep that track position? In comes Ronar. Longue is going to come in. Blakely stays out and to go around for another lap. Otis Lawrence carries on. Jarno carries on. So a couple have responded, but I think it was essential that Ronar and Longue, at the very least, they had to respond. They're in the lead of the race.
Yeah, just keeping my beady eyes here on Ulas Özildirim. He needs to try and jump now. Thomas Ronar, of course, if he does so, effectively that's net lead in this Grand Prix as well. Makes his way out of the Ravatsa section. This could be very, very close. Of course, plenty of cars in the pit. Ronar, Longue, as well as Hughes as well. Past the pit lane becomes Ulas Özildirim. They all escape now. There you see Ronar still has the lead, but they're going to be coming together. But Özildirim has the lead, the net lead of the race. P14 on track, ahead of Thomas Ronar and ahead of Nicholas Longue as well. Plan is working, Jack. He's got his nose in front.
Yeah, he's got the track position. He's got to hold on to it now. He's got Ronar behind him. So a bit tough ask now, but Ronar right behind, Longue in behind as well. So he's got that crucial track position, didn't push too hard, didn't use up his ERS too much, but just had enough to slot in front of Ronar here to try and hang on for this, if what he's hoping will be a race victory. But now, of course, we have to wait for the rest of the order to pit here. They'll have fresher tyres later on, so it's either track position or fresher tyres. And in comes Blakely and Otis Lawrence and Josh Edo and Marcel Kiefer. So 4 AF stops happening. Jarno carrying on in the lap. Brendan Lee, Alfie Butcher, they're the first cars on the hard tyres, so they'll obviously stay out for this section of the race. But we'll see now Blakely, Lawrence, Edo, Kiefer, where they're going to filter out relative to Ozildra and Ronar. They should come up behind all of them, but it will be pretty tight as they head down towards turn number 1 here. You'll see Ronar go for the move here. He'll switch with Ozildra as they come up towards turn 1. There's Blakely and Co on the left-hand side, and they all get in front, of course, as you would expect, and swap between Ronar and Ozildra. No fight put up. They're working with each other to stay in front.
Yeah, Ozildra at the same time, overtaken by Thomas Ronhar on lap 13 of 32. Still a long way to go, however. They're going long on the hard set of tyres, as you would expect here at Imola, heading through towards Tosa this time around, and it's nose to tail between Ozildra, Ronhar out in front, Longue now down in 3rd place too. We've also got Barry Burman, who's still yet to box, but he's going long on the hard tyres. Of course, already accruing 12 laps on that, alongside that of Jake Benham, Fabrizio Donoso, as well as Philip Prejnader, Joni Tormala, as well as Alfie Butcher and Brendan Lee, who currently leads that contingent that are going to try and go long. Jarno Opmeer also trying a similar strap, but on medium tyres. Danny Berejnay doing exactly the same as well, and you firmly expect them to pit very soon, even though I can see them going past the pit lane. They still haven't jumped. Butcher now overtaking Brendan Lee, goes 3rd place now out on track. There's also Philip Prejnader making the key moves, jumps ahead of Joni Tormala. He's now into 5th.
Yeah, good move from Alfie Butcher. Now remember, of course, Alfie also has 5 seconds to add on to his race time at the end, so he's got a big mountain to climb later on in this race if he does want to finish in the points even with that. So Jarno and Danny, of course, remember, Danny may be in a Haas at the moment, but these two are teammates at Mercedes, so they obviously have a plan of something, working with each other here. 22% DRS for Danny. Jarno's still hanging on out there, 81% DRS, not in push mode at the moment, but seems to be hanging on for those fresh tyres, and has now managed to break DRS to Jarno, to Danny behind, sorry, as Joni Tormala picks up a 3-second penalty. Barry Bormand trying his best to try and get by Joni Tormala right there, but wasn't able to do that. So obviously these guys are obviously praying for something else to happen out here. A safety car is what they need, especially for Barry after that turn 1 incident earlier on. So we will see as they come up towards the pit lane. Jarno's still out there, Danny hanging on as well. So these guys obviously trying something different. Not a bad thing, of course. Track position may come to them later on, but a big call to keep on out there.
Yeah, absolutely right. Coming through Ravazza 1 and 2. Jake Benham now moves himself up the order as now more cars coming to the pits. Philip Prejnader being one of them. Ulas Ozildra will now have DRS and make his way down towards Tamarello, trying to chase after that of Thomas Ronhar past the pits. They blast past that of Philip Prejnader as well as they start to formulate into the positions you would expect them to be. Still not making moves. Ulas Ozildra stays in behind Ronhar, who currently holds on to 9th now. 8.3 seconds, and that time deficit is coming down all the time between that of Ronhar and Jake Benham. But look who is on the tail of Ronhar, not giving him any respite. Ulas Ozildra, a stellar display so far, Jack. He hasn't really missed a step.
No, he hasn't. He's stayed in there, not losing touch with Thomas Ronhar, of course. Just, again, not trying too hard to pass. Of course, you don't want to burn up your tyres or your ERS trying to get in front either. And they need to not fight with each other too hard either. For again, thinking long term in this Grand Prix. So Ronhar holding track position for the moment. Ulas Ozildra holding net P2. Longue currently net P3. Then you got Blakely, Lawrence, and Edo, Isvan Pukki. Again, they pitted a little bit earlier compared to everyone else. Danny Berejnay comes into the pits now to serve his mandatory pit stop, and he'll be trying to again use that fresher tyre later on in the race. They'll have about 3 or 4 lap fresher tyres later in the race. Goes onto the hard tyre, and that tyre life could be crucial later on in this Grand Prix. But now clean air for a bit of clean air for Ronhar as they come across the start-finish line to begin lap 16 of 32, half distance in this race. Ozildra happy to sit behind, but just filling the mirrors of Ronhar in towards turn 1. and letting him know if he does make a mistake, he will go through.
Yeah, giving him something to think about. Jana Watmir now the only car on 15-lap-old medium tyres as Berejnay pits in onto the hards himself. Now he is going to have certainly plenty of life right to the end of this race, but unfortunately track position-wise down in P17 out on track. Ulas Yildirim still staying well within that rear wing of Thomas Ronhaar's car. Nicholas Longuet doing exactly the same. We've got a train of them heading all the way down to Otis Lawrence, with a gap then to Josh Ido down in 13th place. They head through Acca Minerale, head now up through the middle sector before then reaching in towards sector 3, and you can just see the cars now starting to funnel their way through towards the Variante Alta. Ulas Yildirim attacking every apex and corner as he looks to give chase. Otmir finally comes into the pits to box off those medium tyres. And let's see where he filters out. I'd imagine probably around where Danny Berejnay was as well. Fabrizio Donoso, a 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane, a race that has certainly not gone to plan for the Chilean, as now, past now the pit lane, comes that of Thomas Ronhaar, Ulas Yildirim, as well as Nicholas Longuet, who I have to tell you was very close to the rear there of Ulas's cars. Now they make their way through towards Tamburello. They were side by side for a brief point, and now Longuet starting to put the pressure on, doesn't want to be left in behind here, obviously threatening to make the big moves. You just saw Ulas breaking out of the aero belonging to that of Thomas Ronhaar, didn't want to become a victim of the slipstream, but at the same time very cautious of Longuet's Ferrari.
Yeah, Jarno coming out behind Wilson Hughes there, but now he's got the freshest tyres of anybody. So let's see if that works for him later on. He's got 4 seconds to make up to Wilson Hughes here, which is at the back of this train, and a couple more pit stops, of course, in front. We've got Alfie Butcher, Brendan Lee, Barry Borman, Joni Tormola and Jake Benham. They all still have to pit. They all started on those hard compound tyres, but Ronhaar still in the net race lead, as Yildirim holding P2, but looking threatening. Longuet as well. Blakely and Lawrence currently in those top 5, currently net top 5 positions at the moment. But Ronhaar has been in control this whole Grand Prix, you would say. Started from pole and is still hanging on there. Brendan Lee and Alfie Butcher working with each other up the front to hope for something to go their way in this race, as Joni Tormola pits from his position. He'll drop down the order, of course, but Longuet is getting closer and closer to Yildirim up towards turn 1. Will there be a move as Yildirim will swap with Ronhaar? Longuet is going to try follow through. There was contact there as they came through. Longuet aggressive on the chop into turn 1, and it's 2 places lost for Ronhaar.
Yeah, I think that was certainly the mentality from Longuet. I think obviously stuck in behind these two for such a long time. He looked to make the big moves on Ulas earlier on. Of course, Ulas did a great job of defending the placement, but immediately took his chance as they brushed past Thomas Ronhaar. Now both of them now moving up a place apiece. Ronhaar losing 2 places as a result of that moment, heading through towards Tamburello, heading down now through towards the double right-hander at Acqua Minerale. They're all closing up on the all-star Jake Benham now, who's still yet to box. We've got 4 cars up at the front end, and they're still yet to pit. Jake Benham, Barry Burman, Alfie Butcher and Brendan Lee, who started on the hard tyres. This is part of their strategy, might I add. Now they're coming up onto the tail of Jake Benham as they make their way down towards Ravazza 1 and 2. There is Ulas Yildirim, your net leader of this race after pit stops are applied. Brendan Lee now in the pits too, with Butcher as well following suit. Those will be certainly swapping onto the medium tyres, you'd firmly imagine. Barry Burman doing exactly the same, as now brushing past now the pit lane comes Ulas Yildirim. He is now your official race leader here once again in the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix here in PSGL. Longuet holding off the approaching Thomas Ronhaar again. These 5 drivers now fighting it out here in the second half of the race. Who's going to win? It's Yildirim, Longuet, Ronhaar, Blakely with Otis Lawrence. Don't count him out. 5th place in the Alpine.
Yeah, we've got lots happening. So there's sort of this breakaway group up front, top 5. Then you've got Josh Ida, who's 2.2 seconds behind. So they've got to hope that these guys start fighting hard for them to close the gap up here. So again, that not ideal for the guys behind to be so far back. But there's still a good way to go in this race. Could still happen, and this could get very, very spicy up front. Ulas Yildirim, though, what a performance. Even if it doesn't quite work out for him, he's still putting on a great show. Nicholas Longuet, though, trying to go back-to-back. Ronhaar going for his 2nd victory. Blakely trying to go for his 2nd victory. Otis trying to go for his 1st official one as well, as they come down the hill for the 19th time of asking to begin lap number 20. This could go either way. Ido closing the gap though, 2 seconds, 1.9 it goes to now. So those guys will have to work with each other to catch up to this lead group. So a lot of work for them to do. in this race, but it could get spicy here. There will be plenty of swaps going on towards turn 1. Here comes Longay to swap with Yildirim towards turn 1. Ronar might try and find a gap to go down as well. Is there enough? Blakely fancies a chance around the outside of turn 1. Lucas Blakely makes the move around the outside, and Otis Lawrence says thank you very much. I'll have both of those places, please. Towards turn number 3 they go again, but Blakely makes the move on the outside of turn 1, slides his way through Tamburello in towards Villeneuve, and gets the move done P3.
Not the first time we've seen that tonight, but a move from the F1 Esports World Champion now up into 3rd place on track, with Otis Lawrence also moving ahead of Thomas Ronar, who is now relegated down into 5th place. It's Longay now your leader, with Ulas Yildirim in hot pursuit as well. Otis Lawrence also having a stellar drive in behind that of Lucas Blakely, with, I have to tell you, several drivers in the mix. But what about Marcel Kiefer, Jack? He's right on the tail of this lot. If they continue to fight, enter the Mercedes.
Yeah, he's in the chance now. He's in DRS of Ronar in front, so that's exactly what he needed. Just that tiny fight. Well, I say tiny fight. It was a hectic fight, but it cost them time, enough for Kiefer to close up to the lead train here. So he's now in the mix, as is Josh Ito. He's in DRS of these guys. It's Van Pookie and Wilson Hughes. Jarno is 1.4 seconds behind this train here, so he's not far off of DRS, and he's got much fresher tyres than everybody in front of him, so don't count him out as they head towards turn 1 again. But Nicholas Longay back in the lead here at Imola. Ulas Yildirim holding 2nd. Now Blakely 3rd, Otis Lawrence 4th, and Ronar in P5. When we started the previous lap, it was Ronar up towards the front end, and he's relegated back to P5 after that short exchange towards the turn number 1. So that just shows you what can happen in one lap as they head towards, again, turn number 5 here. But Longay holds the lead for the moment, but you can see it's going to get very interesting, because we've got plenty of guys here, but we're watching Jarno Watmir and Danny Berezny. They've got much fresher tyres than everybody in front, and that might really help them later on in this Grand Prix.
Yeah, it certainly can do, and this is Ulas Yildirim's first appearance this season in season 34 of PSGL in PCF1. What a debut this season from this young man. Of course, the Turkish driver, the tenacious Turk, currently sat in 2nd place and only half a second away from Nicholas Longay, who leads the fold. Lucas Blakely in behind, who made up that stellar overtake. Of course, getting his way past Thomas Ronar, with Otis Lawrence trying to follow through as well as they make their way down across the start-finish line yet again. Lap 22 of 32. 10 laps still to go, plus a little bit. It's Ulas Yildirim now giving chase here to Nicholas Longay as they now look to break in towards Tamburello. No change up at the front end as Brendan Lee sets the fastest lap of the race. That's a 1:14.941 to add to the list as well. Kiefer now hot on the tail. Thomas Ronar now also hot on the tail of Otis Lawrence as they now climb up through towards Tosa. Knows he needs to make the moves. Chucks it down the inside through now. The Tosa left-hander, wheel to wheel. He runs with the Welshman now, and the Sauber Esports driver now looking to try and charge his way back past the Welshman that took the place from him previously. They head through the Piratella, nose to tail, wheel to wheel, heading down through towards Aqua Minerale. You never see it here. They come together. Otis defending his place, and I think he has done, but aggressive driving from the pair of them, Jack.
Marcel Kiefer, thank you very much. P4 for Marcel Kiefer because of that exchange. Otis picks up a 3-second penalty, but a person who I totally ruled out for a second, George. Brendan Lee on the mediums, charging through. He's past Berezny and is now charging up to Wilson Hughes. Jarno making moves. Up to P8 he goes. He goes by Istvan Pukki. This is going to be an absolutely fascinating end to this Grand Prix. Brendan Lee is on the charge in P11 on those mediums. Alfie Butcher going with him, but there is lots to happen here. Ronar and Otis Lawrence coming to blows through the bottom of the hill. That'll be reviewed later in the stewards room, but Marcel Kiefer, the beneficiary, moves up to P4.
Yeah, also Istvan Pukki making moves as well. Now, if you are Marcel Kiefer right now, you're going to be elated. Great move, opportunistic. If you're Otis Lawrence and Thomas Ronar, you only have yourselves to blame. That is my frank assessment of that. If you're going to chuck it down through Aqua Minerale, more full view is now Alfie Butcher starts to make moves. Alongside that of Wilson Hughes, creeps through now up does the house driver, as we now see Pukki and Brendan Lee doing battle. Piratella yet again. It's Brendan Lee who holds on to 9th place, with Jarno Watmir now ahead of him too, giving chase, and Watmir on those fresher hard tyres on the tail of his former nemesis Thomas Ronar. A battle of Dutch supremacy as they make their way down towards the Variante Alta, and you can only feel that the tension is built up, considering the fact that these two have come together oh so many times on the exit now of Alta. In comes Jarno Watmir, looking to try and creep and peep around the outside through Ravazza 1. He's going to hold it around the outside. He's going to battle his fellow Dutch compatriot, making his way out of Ravazza 2. He's got a nose in front, a whole car in front, and enter Brendan Lee.
What a move from Jarno Opmeer around the outside, and Brendan Lee will swap with his teammate now towards the first corner here. Jarno's P7. Brendan Lee is the man though, on the charge, on the medium tyres, chasing after Jarno Opmeer, but that was a lovely battle between Jarno and Thomas Rollard down towards the last two corners. Left each other just enough room and no more, but round the outside of the last two corners you don't do that, but Jarno made it work on the outside. Brendan Lee now chasing down the two-time F1 Esports champions, about to do battle on the track now, but it's Jarno holding track position, but at the moment still up front, still Nicholas Longe still leading this race, but Jarno and Brendan and Alfie Butcher are charging their way through the field, but Brendan needs to make the move. He's got the mediums, he's got the tyres to work with, he's got to make these moves. He's in with a real chance here if he can get clear of the cars in front here.
Yeah, there's a lot going on here in the top 10. The gaps are marginalised. There is a DRS train all the way down to P13, where Wilson Hughes is currently fighting with Danny Berejne right at the very top. Lucas Blakely, don't count him out, right on the tail now of Ulas Yildirim, and I can only imagine what's going through Ulas's head given the fact that he's now got an F1 Esports world champion and the current F1 Esports champion to boot hot on his tail. Brendan Lee, also a former champ, chasing after the double world champion, his fellow double world champion Jarno Opmeer. A battle of the titans here in the world of PSGL as they come through Tamburello. Kiefer as well trying to defend against Otis Lawrence. There is a squabble right through this classification right now, and it's absolutely breathtaking to watch.
It is, and it's anybody's guess who's going to hold on to the wins here. Jarno trying to look up the inside of Ido. There's not enough space there. Lee trying to go around his outside, no room there, and still has to hold behind. So it's tricky to find space to make these overtakes here. Track position so key around Imola here. Such a short lap. Nicholas Longe hanging on at the front for the moment, like he did last week. He was in this very position last week, trying to keep a charging number of cars behind him. He's doing it again, and they're running out of laps now. Jarno thinking about a move on Ido into the chicane, has a look on the inside. Ido leaves him space on the inside. There's contact between them. No, it's not going to work for either of them. And through goes Brendan Lee on the inside, in towards the chicane, capitalised on the contact and moves into P6. That's exactly what he needed. It was an audacious move from Jarno into the chicane. It's not going to work out. Brendan Lee capitalises P6.
You very rarely see moves at the Variante Alta for that very reason. Jarno Opmeer, whilst he didn't lose a place, he remains in 7th, but he lost out to Brendan Lee on a potential 6th place as there Josh Ido looks to try and increase the punishment levied against that of the Flying Dutchman. Heading down now towards Tamburello. Still no place gained for Ido. Further back to Noso, jumps ahead of Burman, who's had a shocking day today after being spun at the very start. Doesn't look to be in the vein of a race win. His points level certainly looks exposed here with Brendan Lee as well as Jarno Opmeer chomping at the bit, and Alfie Butcher, who's also arriving on the scene. Outside line now against Josh Ido. The Red Bull now under convincing pressure as now the Haas looks to charge. Heading up through the Piratella. Sensational from the Butcher. Brings the carving knife down upon the Welsh superstar who's got himself a Red Bull seat, and certainly he'll have to think again and challenge that of Alfie Butcher the next lap around. He can't afford to lose places.
Certainly can't. Alfie, of course, I can't forget he's got a 5-second penalty, so all of this he's going to drop outside the points anyway. But this is exactly what Brendan Lee needs for his title hopes. He's right, he's doing exactly what he needs to do. Gaining points on both of his rivals. Barry is still down in P16, so no points currently for him. He's got Jarno one position back from him, and he's still got laps in front of him. How much will those mediums hang on? How much more pace has he got left in these tyres, and can he continue to charge his way through the orders as Yildirim goes for the lead up front in towards turn 1 and gets it done on the outside. So as Yildirim back to the front as we head into the last dying few laps of this Grand Prix. Still lots that can happen, but can Brendan Lee find any more space to get through? He's running out of laps to do it, but it's getting very tight.
We could be on the cusp of a Cinderella story here. Ulas Yildirim, first appearance this season in PSGL season 34, a budding star who certainly was brought to the forefront in ESL R1, driving for FaZe Clan. has obviously been trying to tout himself for a future F1 esports seat, and what a way to announce your arrival at the very top end where it comes to esports talent. And I must say, a huge mistake from Nicholas Longue, and that can very much place him at risk now from that of Lucas Blakely, heading through Variante Alta. I tell you what, Ulas Yildirim looking calm and composed. He is not making a single error at the front, and is marshalling, certainly just driving his own race. If you're Longue right now, under pressure as Benham sustains a 3-second time penalty, Lucas Blakely is going to look to now try and strike in position against that of the Frenchman, driving for the Scuderia. The gap now starting to lengthen. Certainly Ulas holding his own here, with Brendan Lee also trying to marshal himself into the fight. Alfie Butcher right on the tail of Jarno Otmir as they head down towards Tamburello side by side again. Otmir shuts the door. Great defensive move there from Jarno Otmir and prevents the overtake from the Butcher. It's Alfie Butcher. He's down in to 8th place.
You could see the mistake from Longue. You could see the attitude of the car from Blakely. He sort of made a weaving manoeuvre to tell him, I'm not going to pass you here, let's work together, as they come up towards the next lap here. But the thing is, these guys behind are saving ERS. Ulas has got 48% battery, Nicholas has got 87%, as does Lucas Blakely, and Marcel Kiefer has got 97% in his ERS, so it's going to be very tricky for Ulas to hang on, but he's doing such an amazing job out the front on his debut back in PSGL PCF1, trying to secure himself what will be a fairy tale victory and continue the run of different winners. We're going for 7, it could still yet be 7 with the way things are going here. Heading down the hills, begin lap number 29 of 32. What a return this would be if he could hang on, as Brendan Lee chucks it down the inside of Otis Lawrence. That's P5 for the two-time F1 esports champ.
And a very clean move as well. I'm liking this aggression from Brendan Lee. He's on the medium tyres, Jack. He's going to have the fastest compound of all. I tell you what, folks, if you're in the top 4, you're going to be quaking in your boots, because in comes a former two-time F1 esports champion, and Marcel Kiefer knows it. Lucas Blakely knows it. A car cuts off in the escape. I think it was Alfie Butcher losing out to a number of places. He lost out to Thomas Ronnar, that's for sure. But now the two-time F1 esports champion, back home to roost, is now going to chuck it up the inside at Toaster as well on those medium tyres. He'll have the grip, now venturing up the hill towards the Piratella. Inside line for Brendan Lee, can't quite do it, but he's asking all the major questions, Jack Kinnan.
He has the grip but not the ERS. That's his problem through that corner. Couldn't quite get alongside. He got alongside but didn't have the battery to sort of pull in front. Marcel being very patient here to try and keep him behind as they head towards the chicane. He's going to have a look on the inside. Surely not in the chicane. Side by side between the two of them. A little bit of contact. He had to back out of that one as they came through. We saw what happened between Jarno and another car there. Had to back out of it. But we see now that chicane, not a place to do it. But Ronnar versus Otmir is also on the cards. He's going to do what Jarno did to him just a couple of laps ago. Around the outside, contact made, can't quite do it through the middle of the corner. Wanted to exact his revenge like he did before, but as they come on to lap number 30, it's Lucas Blakely on the attack.
He certainly is, battling now for second place as he goes side by side with Nicholas Longue, going for the lead as well. Can he be stopped? No, he can't. The current champion is now. Longue cuts the Tamburello chicane. Incredible moment. Blakely now leads here at Imola. A stellar move now as Kiefer moves up into 3rd place. Longue lost out majorly after losing position out on the track, had to cut through the gravel, and now sees himself down into 4th. Ulas also missing out. What an overtake from Lucas Blakely, your current champion in F1 esports, and now he leads here with 2 laps to go and a little bit here at Imola.
For me, that's the winning move, George. Surely he's got it in the bag now. He's got the battery to defend with, and he's got a small gap to work with here. That could be the race-winning move for Lucas Blakely, but he's got to hang on for 2 more laps here to try and secure what will be a fantastic victory. He's starting to gap Ulas now. What a move that was in towards turn 1. Had to do it, but Marcel Kiefer's in with a chance of a podium here. What a result this would be for Marcel as he comes through the last 2 corners. Longue still trying to do it here. Brendan still hanging in there in P5, but look at Blakely. He's checking out front now. He's got it in the bag, surely without a mistake, and he's got the freshest tyres to work with compared to the car behind him of Ulas Yildirim. Marcel Kiefer trying to hang on, but Ulas is not giving up the fight, is he, in towards turn 1? But Lucas trying not to use too much battery here. Brendan not making any any gains here, but this is great for his championship, gaining points on Barry and on Jarno as we're on lap number 31 of 32, but Longue still desperately trying to get back past for the podium.
Yeah, he's going to chuck it up the inside, heading through towards Tosa as well. Very nearly left it late. In fact, might have left himself a little exposed here because Brendan Lee is in is like a shark in infested waters. Now looking to try and challenge that of the Frenchman. Has in fact managed to develop some breathing space now behind that of Marcel Kiefer. Of course, has given Marcel, I think, a little bit of a helping hand considering the Longue was hot on his tail. So he can thank Brendan Lee for that as they venture down through towards the Variante Alta. I'm still not content with counting out Ulas Yildirim here, Jack. At this point in time, remains within DRS, needs a huge exit. Heading out to the Ravatsa left-handers. Can he do it? That's the big question. Enter now Longue, back in the presence of Marcel Kiefer yet again. No doubt trying to tune himself up for a burst down the long straight.
Yeah, this is going to be it. Look at the gap that Blakely's got now. Surely this is his to lose as they come across the line to begin the final lap of the race. Ulas Yildirim trying to hang on for a fairy tale first podium. Coming up towards turn 1, Marcel Kiefer is going to challenge him though towards turn 1. Not enough to pull alongside. In towards the first corner they come again. Brendan Lee's run out of tyres by the looks of it as they head through into the next part of the corner, but he's hanging on to P5. Marcel not giving up the fight here on Ulas Yildirim. Coming up towards the hairpin. Not quite close enough to go for a lunge on the brakes here, but he's got to defend. From Longue hits him in the rear through the middle of the corner. They all come through unscathed. Longue was brave on the brakes there, but not enough to pull alongside the German there and steal the podium away. But this has been a mental Grand Prix, a total change in what we expected towards the end of the Grand Prix here. Not how we expect it to end, and not who we expect to be running in the podium positions in the end. But what a display this has been from everybody up towards the front end. Brendan Lee trying to get by Longue, but not enough to get through in the chicane. Ronner gets a 3-second penalty. That's him out of the points now as they head towards the last two corners here. What a race this has been, and a display from the current reigning F1 Esports champion. The move when it counted, did it when it counted. He'll become the first repeat winner here in PSGL this season. Lucas Blakely will win the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix here in Imola. Ulas Yildirim with a stunning second place on his return, and Marcel Kiefer will get himself on the podium for this time here in Imola. Nicolas Longue is P4, and Brendan Lee now gives himself a shot at the title, finishes in P5, Jarno P6, Danny Beresne in P7, Isfan Pukki, Wilson Hughes, and crucially George Barry scores a point in P10.
Incredible stuff indeed. The champ is back, ladies and gentlemen. Lucas Blakely, your current F1 Esports World Champion, now a two-time race winner, levels the stakes against his former teammate Barry Burman from last season. Now they both share 2 wins apiece this campaign. A stellar drive from the Scot, who's already taken a victory this week in Formula Ford, and now returns here yet again. Driver of the day in accordance to the game, going to Alfie Butcher, and a debut P2 and a debut podium from the Turkish Tornado. That, of course, being Ulas Yildirim. He'll be absolutely thrilled with that. Marcel Kiefer as well, Jack. A massive result for him too. 3rd place.
Yeah, that'll be a confidence booster for Marcel Kiefer. It comes through to score a P3, but what a race that was, and what a beautifully controlled move that was to come through. Lucas Blakely makes the double overtake and holds on to secure the victory here in Emilia-Romagna, and also for the first time, the first repeat winner in this series. The first repeat winner apart from Barry Boremant this season, and we will see if anybody else can get on top. But Lucas Blakely, what a job he did. Controlled it beautifully. Ulas Yildirim, what a drive. Hang on, almost got the victory. Just didn't have the ERS to try and get back past Lucas Blakely. But also that little exchange between himself and Nicolas Longue cost each other time. Longue finishes in P4 in the end. Brendan Lee from P10s finishes in P5. Jarno Watmere finishes in P6 where he started. Beresne finishes in P7 where he started. Isfan Pukki from 15th comes to 8th. Wilson Hughes in P9. And Barry Boremant, after that disastrous lap 1, finishes in P10. But of course, let's not forget, all of those results are provisional, pending, of course, penalty removals and stewards' inquiries. But no one can deny Lucas Blakely that victory. That was a perfectly timed overtake to take the lead when he did and pull away, use the ERS to good effect, and let everything else happen behind him.
What a timely move, Jack. Not only that, the manner that the move was made was something out of this world. A double overtake in towards Tamburello. It is doable. We've seen it before. We saw it a couple of times over the course of the actual race. He wasn't the only one to do it. I want to ask, though, questionable moves. There was a few occurrences. Obviously, we saw the side-by-side with that of Otis and that of Thomas Ronha. We then saw Jarno's move at Variante Alta, which was bold, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, doesn't necessarily pay off, does it?
No, but it's those split-second decisions. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. But a corner like Variante Alta never going to really work going into that corner. It's so narrow that it's very rare that you can get a move there. You saw Brendan Leith try it, but then back out midway through, and ultimately he did end up having to sit behind. But it was either that or places. He was the one who capitalized off that contact between Jarno and Josh, coming through and taking both on the inside just from that. So it'd be disappointment, I think, for certain drivers after some of the incidents and whatever. But again, it shows you championship fight is alive and kicking now with that double outscore from Brendan Lee and Jarno Watmere. They're now very much in this. Barry will still lead the championship, believe it or not. He's still clinging on, but that gap is reduced.
It is, and I'm pleased to say, folks, that we do in fact have Ulas Yildirim joining us here in the commentator's box. Ulas, what a drive, first of all, and welcome to PSGL PC F1 for the first time this season, season 34. That's not a bad return, is it?
Yeah, it's not a bad return, especially after not playing the game for 2 months. It was like a really good return for me. I was not expecting to be that high. I know my qualifying pace was good, but I didn't think I would be top 3, top 2. So it's a really good race for me.
Yeah, massive race for yourself as well. I mean, like yourself, obviously we spent some time together in ESL R1 back in Saudi Arabia. It was some fight back then. What's the transition been like, moving away from the GT3 cars back into the single-seaters? Has it been tough?
Yeah, it was tough for the first 2-3 days. Maybe when I got home from ESL R1, it was tough for 2 days. I tried to get used to it. But after 1 week, I will already get used to it. I just need to do more practice. Now it's 3 months, not 3 months, 3 weeks later from ESL1, and I am already on pace. Everything is going good. Looking forward to the next races. It was really good for me.
Yeah, and obviously I think you've definitely won the fans over after that incredible display. Where did that time come from? I think obviously, have you carried over some of that knowledge of performing at the highest level in LAN events to then bring it to the forefront here in PSGL? Because you seem to have just turned things up a notch here. That qualifying lap was quite special.
Yeah, in the LAN I got so much experience. Now I can do laps under pressure. Before I couldn't do it. Even if I was fast, I couldn't do good laps under pressure. But now I am good under pressure as well, because I got used to the LAN event, and now it's not hard here because I'm not at my home just driving. So I can do the laps I do at practice. My lap was good. I had mistake, but it was really good lap. So I got P3 in qualifying. Then I just carried it to the race. I did a little bit strategy mistake in the pits. I pitted too early, but it was still enough for P2. So I'm really happy.
Yeah, and obviously F1 Esports is the goal, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Brilliant stuff. Well, congratulations.
F1 Esports the goal.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I tell you what, congratulations on a stellar performance, a wonderful podium, and your first as well of the season, on your debut, might add, this season as well. Massive congratulations. I'm sure it won't be the first if you carry on like that.
Yeah, hopefully.
Thank you, Ulas. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Ulas Yildirim, everybody. Jack, that is a young man with confidence right there. And I think, like I said, the LAN event definitely helped. But there was something more to that, wasn't there? He certainly did garner some superior pace. And I don't think we've ever seen that from Ulas in the past.
No, it's great to see as well, confidence builder, and interesting to see, LAN building experience to deliver under pressure. It's especially different when you're put in a room with a crowd watching you and a huge broadcast behind you as well. To deliver under that pressure, it can only give more experience and build more and more experience. That's exactly, especially what these guys need for what we expect will be F1 Esports back to LAN at some point. To be able to do that under pressure is exactly what he needs as well. I can tell you, a provisional championship standings, I have Barry currently sitting on 63. And then I have Jarno on 56 and Brendan on 49. So it's closed up, so only 7 points in it now.
Yeah, it's getting very, very tight. And I'm pleased to also be joined by our current F1 esports champion. And not only that, our race winner from today, Lucas Blakely, joins us in the commentary box as well. Lucas, it's been a good week for you. Not only winning here tonight at Imola, but also taking a stellar victory in Formula Ford.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a bit of a rollercoaster few days, you know, going from the real thing back onto the sim. But yeah, it's nice to get a good result. I mean, it's, you know, it's maybe not the same as it used to be, like in terms of how much it, like, let's say, means, if that makes sense, in league racing, like just winning these ones. But, you know, I think it's always nice when you have the result. I think the main thing we'll look to take away from these races at the moment is to understand, you know, the pace and the strategies, how we're working as a team, you know, the fundamentals. And yeah, today was really tricky. I mean, I only had really 2 days of prep for this one. I obviously got back on Monday afternoon. And yeah, I got maybe a little bit of time trial on the Monday, but then yeah, I only got to start to do some testing on the Tuesday. So it's been very, 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 very difficult to get up to speed in these last 2 days. I don't think our pace, our outright pace today, especially in quali, was a little bit lacking. But I'm glad that I at least put it P5, just, you know, stay in the mix. And yeah, the race was pretty hard to drive from like a car balance standpoint, but we executed a phenomenal strategy, so thanks to the lads for that. You know, Anton, you know, the GOAT, the engineer, the absolute legend himself. And yeah, we managed to time everything perfectly. Towards the end, everything just came together like clockwork. And I knew the I just timed the energy, timed the, you know, when people were maybe going to start losing pace to perfection, and that's kind of how we won. Because yeah, we just picked everything apart at the right time. So yeah, nice.
It was a stellar, a stellar race from yourself. But I want to talk about the overtake towards the end. I mean, you certainly did pick your spot. There was a lot of, happenings going on between that of Longay, and obviously Ulas was in the mix as well. I think Ronhar came unstuck at certain points, but that double overtake proved to be the catalyst, did it not?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, quite a lot happened in that race, so it was kind of trying to like pick apart when things sort of happened. And yeah, I believe the podium was Ulash and Marcel, so GG's to both of them as well. Yep. Yeah, very mature drive as well from Ulash as well. So GG's to him. On his first, I guess this is his first race in a while, as well, and F1, you know, he's been busy with the Rennsport business, so oh, he's actually raided me, what a legend, bloody hell, thank you, Yulish. But yeah, no, it was just, we just took the opportunities as they came. I'm usually a man of never-ending amounts of words, but I don't really have much to say. It was just,
Job done.
We just took the opportunities because we didn't have the raw pace. I think we struggled probably the most at this track overall. But it's always encouraging to know that with a good execution, you can still be in the mix. Because there's been quite a few times on this game where you know, we've put it on pole and we've drove good races, and then things fall apart just because of how powerful DRS and slipstream and things like that are. So it was maybe nice to get a bit of a redemption on the other foot. You know, we didn't get pulled today, but we managed to execute a phenomenal race. So yeah, it's just not satisfying to put everything together. And yeah, it's been a very special week. So yeah, I'm happy to maybe get a bit of a rest tomorrow, because I'll tell you one thing: when you live in Scotland, driving to Brands Hatch and back is not something I would do for fun. 450 miles of blah, I mean, blah, yeah, most people would, but I'm insane, so what can I say? So no, but yeah, once again, big I mean, blah, I prefer driving race cars to my road car. That's what I'll say. That's for sure. But yeah, big GG to you, Ash. Again, he's in my chat as well. So GG, dude. He's actually in this call as well. But yeah, big GG to him. That was a very strong race. And yeah, GG. I think it was Marcel get P3. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah,
it was.
Yeah, so GG to him as well.
Yeah, stellar drive from Marcel. That was, to be fair, because he struggled. Obviously, this season, great for him to have a podium. But just want to talk to you as well, Lucas, briefly. Obviously, that is your second race win this season. You've leveled up essentially with your former teammate Barry Burremand. You're the only two drivers to have more than one victory over the course of this championship. Obviously, now there's a huge target on your back because you are the current F1 Esports champion. What's the pressure like? How are you handling it in your quest for a second and a back-to-back title?
Well, I mean, I can assure you the most pressure comes on me. I mean, there's no one that puts more pressure on this planet on me than me. I'm my own biggest critic. So for me, I always put pressure on myself to deliver to the standard that I sort of hold myself to. But yeah, that's technically 3 race wins I'll have. What was that? My second race win? Technically 3.
Yeah, we've heard that before, but we're on about those that you score points in. So you know, technically the other ones don't count. We're calling those exhibitions. So there you go.
Okay. Yeah. I see how it is. Yeah.
No, if you want to make it 3, come back next week and try and do it again.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess that's the way it's going to be then if we're going to make it. That's you know.
That's my
but no,
challenge
it's all good. Blah, no pressure then. But no, all good. In all seriousness, no, it's yeah. For me, you know, whether I've got a target on my back, I have no idea. To be honest, I'll just sort of focus on myself. I don't get involved in the egos and the mind games and all that waste of time, because ultimately it's just a waste of energy. Why would I get involved? And you know, having petty egos and all these sort of things, I don't see the point. Ultimately, you know, it's too much effort, man. I'm 22 now. Half of these guys are like 16 these days, so I'm getting old. So I don't know what to. You know, I've got to reserve the energy a bit. Nah, it's all good. But no, yeah, don't really know. Usually, I'm actually struggling to think of what to say, to be honest. Yeah, usually I can talk forever, but I'm out of words, man.
You're just content. You're content. But yeah, a fantastic result.
No, never content.
You're never content. Even though you win, there's you still demand better, but that's great. I mean, that essentially complies with the professional that you are. So congratulations on yet another stellar victory, and onwards and upwards, I'm sure, as you challenge for yet further. Congratulations, though. Fantastic week, and congratulations on the Formula Ford as well.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Hope everyone enjoyed the race, and yeah, see you guys, I guess, next week for which track?
Spa. I was ready for it.
Belgium. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Now I actually know what I'm doing next week.
This is all I'm here for. Is to update Lucas.
I know.
We got Spa, Saudi, and Mexico. That's the next 3, so I can tell you that much.
Spa, Saudi. Wait. Oh yeah. Okay. All good. Oh well. Cheers, guys.
Yeah.
Hope you enjoyed everything, and yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you ever so much, Lucas, joining us here in the commentary box, giving us some insight after that stellar race win. And Jack, I think it's one he will appreciate. He certainly has delivered yet again. He is no stranger to winning races, and clearly demands more of himself as well, and for good reason.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's not a 2-time F1 Esports champion for nothing. But I can say, actually, because he'd missed a couple of rounds, I had sort of ruled him out in the title race, but I can tell you Lucas is in this as well. He's 1 point behind Brendan Lee now on 48 points. So we've now got 4 drivers in contention for this. Three rounds currently on the calendar: Spa, Jeddah, and Mexico. So this could still be very much. This could still be in Lucas's grasp.
Yeah, it's definitely a possibility, and he is well worthy of that too. I mean, you'd be foolish to count out a world champion, you know, for his right to perhaps challenge for a top-end title. So we'll have to watch on with great interest, folks, as to whether Lucas Blakely can achieve that. But I want to say personally as well, a big thank you to each and every single one of you for tuning in. You guys obviously make this happen. You get on board with everything we do here at PSGL. Yet another stellar broadcast. Thank you so much for being part of it. And if you haven't done so already, please make sure you leave a like and also subscribe to the PSGL YouTube channel. Don't forget as well to check them out on social media at PremierSimGL on Twitter, Instagram and TikTok. As well, you can check me out, George Morgan TV, at George Morgan TV. My name is, of course, George Morgan, your commentator here at PSGL as well. You can find me at George Morgan TV on Twitter, Instagram and TikTok, as well as Facebook, various others as well. The name doesn't change, it's always the same. Jack Canan, how about yourself? Would you like to share your socials, please?
Thank you to this beautiful graphics down below. You can see both of our social tags down there. And Jack C comes for me on Twitter, or X, whatever the hell we're calling it now. And for Instagram, you can find me at Jack_Kanan there as well. So if you'd like to follow, absolutely. Of course, Stewards inquiries to come.
It certainly will be, so stay tuned to the social medias and get all the latest news as well. I'm sure Jack will be posting some stuff about it as well. But today, we have witnessed certainly yet another driver match Barry Burman's record this season of 2 race wins. Unfortunately, we did not find a magic 7th winner, but we've still got 6, so we've still got a record. We're going to now fly forward, heading towards Spa-Francorchamps for a historic race around the track in Belgium. So join us next week at 7 o'clock on Wednesday night. With me, George Morgan and Jack Kanan. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Desperately trying to hang on. He's got the inside. Up here is through on the left-hand side. Hooks the apex, gets on the power nicely, and that is job done. Jarno Opmeer now to the last couple of corners now. His finest drive, his greatest drive, and he's done it at the Circuit of the Americas. He returns to the top step of the podium. Once again, the ghost is back. Jarno Opmeer wins the US Grand Prix in a stunning Grand Prix.
Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though.